So Tom Johnson is our instructor today. He's flown up here from Florida. He has been soaring since 1975, and he's been a CFIG since 1978. He's an instructor at Coastal Soaring, which is in Pensacola, Florida, where he is part owner of a couple of sailplanes. And this is interesting. As a U.S. Navy aviator in 1986 to 1991, he flew 1,200 hours in a Grumman A6 Intruder, making nearly 400 carrier landings, including 115 carrier landings at night. And I don't know, I just never really thought about anybody landing on a carrier at night, but I guess they do it. So anyway, Tom has been a trustee of the Soaring Safety Foundation for the past 9 years. And he was instrumental in writing the Soaring Safety Foundation's flight instructor refresher course, and he's been teaching it for the past 14 years. So with that, let me welcome Tom Johnson.
Well, thank you, Chris. That's a very nice, kind introduction. I am Tom Johnson. I'm from the Soaring Safety Foundation. We travel around the country and speak to y'all, and it's hopefully you'll get something out of this. So I got to tell you a little about who I am. That's me in an A6 over the Adriatic Sea, just west of Italy, 1989. The USS Roosevelt in the back there, we used to call that the floating prison because once you're on it, you never got off it. That's me in a 757 coming into San Antonio in 2012. That's me in my pits there. If I really, and I mean really want to scare myself, I get that thing out, and I've owned it for 10 years now, and it still kicks my rear end from one side of the airport to the other. And that's me at the seniors last year with our duodiscus, which, oh, by the way, if you want to do a discus, it's for sale. And it's really nice because we're getting a duodiscus with an FES. Okay? I want you to be aware, I may get on my soapbox. Any Air Force pilots in here? Oh, good. So the disparaging remarks I make about the Air Force will not be taken as anything other than what they are. Okay? And what I want you to do is not sit there. I know this stuff. You don't know it. I want to hear what you know. I want to hear about your operation. I want to hear about what we're talking about, how you do things. I'm boring. Who's the most interesting person in the room here?
Me.
Exactly. So I want to hear what you have to say. Okay?
We're all supposed to be saying that.
Yes. Okay?
Only one did.
Your opinion matters, okay? I want to know. I want you to tell me everything. Okay? I want you guys to start arguing with each other. Just don't draw any weapons. You need to check the weapons at the door, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Knitting needles.
Okay. The knitting, well, there you go. You can take that on the airplane with the TSA, right?
He's like an assassin with him. Don't go there.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about aviation safety. So what I want to know from you is, what do you think that aviation safety is all about?
Getting to where you're going without dying.
Okay. That's a goal. It's not a very lofty goal, but it is a goal. What else?
Safety culture.
Safety culture. So how does that play into it? If I go fly under a bridge, am I being safe? Why not?
Probably not. Because you're endangering yourself, people, and property.
So I've introduced a lot of risk into the operation that's not necessary. So aviation safety is identifying risk and developing mitigation strategies. Okay? It's a silly picture, but it gets the point across, right? So what we want you to do is look at your operation, look for areas where you may be introducing risk, and develop ways to mitigate it. Okay? That's what aviation safety is all about. Okay, come on, work. So we have to have a plan. We always have a plan. We're going to talk about safety overview, latest safety thinking, so things let you train better. And if we get this far, we'll go into launch failures and collision avoidance. Okay? And again, I want you guys to talk to me. If you have to go to the bathroom, get up and go. Okay? You're not going to listen to me if you've got to listen to some other part of your body. And if it starts to get too long and not off, we'll cut this thing off. Okay? So, safety review. What's wrong with this picture? It's a pretty picture. What's wrong with it?
Somebody's paying attention to their camera instead of their flying.
Oh, really? You mean he's flying the air? He's playing with his camera and not flying the aircraft?
Well, either that or his phone or both.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do you think this is a safe operation? This is something that your club wants to be proud of?
No.
No, exactly. Good. You've read the script. Excellent. Okay. So look for things like that. It's a pretty picture. It's great, but you can tell that he's looking at the camera. He's not watching the airplane, not what's going on, not looking for traffic. So look for things like that. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the safety numbers. Okay. You guys recognize this? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we've got lots of data out there, and we kind of have to figure out what to do with the data. Okay. So we're going to do some data analytics. What's data analytics?
Science of analyzing data to make conclusions about information.
Okay, excellent. So if I were to tell you that 44% of all marriages end in divorce, 44% of all marriages end in divorce, what can you conclude from that?
66% don't.
Well, 56% don't, but do those 56% end in death?
Oh,
Okay, that's one way you can look at it. You know, that normally gets a better response to that.
Marriage is risky.
Marriage is risky, yeah. You know, 33% of women said that they date a guy because he's funny. What does that mean? My wife thinks I'm funny. So what's that mean?
Looks aren't everything.
Looks aren't everything. There's 1 in 3 chance she thinks I'm ugly. So you got to look at things in a different way. That's what we're hopefully getting you to think about. So at the Soaring Safety Foundation, when I got involved about 15 years ago, people were killing themselves primarily in the landing pattern. And we said, why are people killing themselves in the landing pattern? Why do you think people are killing themselves in the landing pattern?
Stall spin?
Stall spin. Why were they stalling and spinning?
Too slow.
What, too slow, okay.
Uncoordinated.
Who are the CFIs in here?
Loss of situational awareness.
Loss of situational awareness. We're the people who were spinning in. Were they doing exactly what you, the CFI, had taught them to do?
No.
Well, what we found was, yes, they were.
Okay.
We told them you have to go to the IP, you have to fly the pattern. So they got low on the other side of the airport. So what did they do?
Stretch the line.
They went to the IP on the other side, flew the pattern, got low, ran out of energy, stalled and spin, and now we have something bad. So we started getting into the goal-oriented approach, which we'll talk about later on. But if you're low over here, should you fly to the other side of the airport?
no.
I want to see lots of heads going, no. Yes, Mr. Johnson, we don't do that, okay? So we started looking at that, we started seeing the number of accidents on the landing side going down, and then the launch failures started to pop their ugly head, okay? What's the first thing you do if you have a launch failure?
Land.
Okay.
Control flying speed.
What's
Fly
that?
the airplane.
Fly the aircraft. Good, the word's getting out there. 2 years ago when I was doing these things, people would go, you gotta pull the release trice to get rid of the rope. Does the glider care if the rope is still attached to it? No. Okay, fly the aircraft. And so we've been hitting that really hard. Get the nose pitched over, start coming around and fly the aircraft, and then once the nose is over and you're starting to turn, the emergency is over, now you're doing a downwind landing. Is a downwind landing an emergency? No. So we don't treat it as such. And so we started to see those accident numbers coming down. Now, en route, people out thermally low altitude is starting to raise its ugly head. So we're getting a really strong pushback from the racing community of, you guys need to stay out of this. We don't want you safety people taking the fun out of soaring by telling us we can't thermal low and kill ourselves. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with right now. If you hear about the idea of the hard deck, we'll talk about that a little bit. Like I said, we're getting tremendous pushback from the racing community that we need to back off. And I would much rather have them be mad at me than having to pull one of you out of a wreckage because you augured it in. Okay? So we belong to the General Aviation Joint Safety Committee, and they put out lots of stuff, and this is their Pareto chart of all the accidents. Okay? This over here is loss of control in flight. What's loss of control in flight? Spin. What else?
Airplane broke?
Oh, that is system component failure, non-power plant. So what else could it be?
Collision.
Well, that's MAC, mid-air collision. What else? I asked the glider to do something and it said, no, we're not going to do that. Okay? Whatever that be. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But this is the chart for the last 4 years for our general aviation in the U.S. You could take this back 20 years and it does not change. Okay? And we'll actually talk about that a little bit. Any experimental people in here fly experimental airplanes? Experimental people have lots of great stuff, right? We should be able to use it on certificated aircraft, right? Nod your head, yes. Okay. Why is the FAA so reticent about allowing us to use that stuff?
Risk mitigation?
Risk mitigation, yes. See this orange bar here? That's the experimental aircraft. What percentage of general aviation aircraft are experimental? 5, good. I'm an naval aviator. I'll put the answer up if I want. Okay? Okay? What percentage of experimental aircraft what percentage of the accidents are experimental aircraft?
More than 5. Looks like
More
40.
than 5. It's 23%, 4.5 times higher. So the people on 14th Street are going to be very reluctant to say, we're going to brace all this new stuff because it works so great, because the accidents don't. Sir?
So Tom, do you mean that includes also experimental certificated gliders?
Yes. The FAA breaks this into experimental and amateur built, EAB. So the majority of that is amateur built stuff. Certificated gliders like you have, your ASW20, registered as experimental, that really doesn't fall into this. But that's why the FAA is very reticent. And those are the top 5. Loss of control, unknown, system component failure, power plant. That means that the engine failed for whatever reason. CFIT, controlled flight into terrain. I always thought that was one of my landings. And unintentional IMC. Okay, we don't run into that in gliders, hopefully. Okay? So where do most of the accidents happen in the soaring community? Landing, yes, you can read. Excellent, good. Okay? So you can see that 62% happen in the landing. Where do most of the fatalities happen? I don't know, it's up on the board.
Unknown, it says, I think.
Unknown right now, yes. This is 2018 to 2023. We had a little virus that was floating around called COVID, and the NTSB is really behind on things, and so that 46% is just because the NTSB has not been able to catch up. Okay? But you see that 21%, the blue, that's launch failures, and 27% is, 7% is landing. So we have the most accidents, but we don't kill many people in landing. People just run out of energy. They run into a fence, they run into a pole because they lose control, whatever, but they're not killing themselves. And what Rich Carlson and our group has done is said, we look at an accident and say, yeah, this is obviously a launch failure. So it goes in the blue bucket. This is obviously a landing problem, so it goes in the yellow bucket. Most of the green are falling into, we don't know where they're happening. There's a glider, it's crashed out on course, something's happened, somebody's dead, and we don't know what happened. And most of those are going to fall into the red bucket, which is free flight. So if you wonder why we as the SSF are starting to push low altitude thermaling and en route stuff, this is why. I would much rather help you buy a new glider than to help your widow or widower with the service, okay? And I hope you guys feel the same way. I can always get another glider, I can't get another one of you. So that's what we're doing, and we're willing to take that.
Quick question.
Okay? Sir, yes, go ahead.
What's the base rate on this? What are we talking, like actual numbers? These thousands, hundreds, tens of
We'll
people?
get into that.
Okay.
Okay. Most of the following low altitude thermally can lead cause of fatal crashes in our community. Okay, we need to address that. I don't like people getting killed. This is the last 20 years of where the accidents have happened. You can see that stall, it changed over to loss of control sometime in there in the mid-teens, early teens. And this is where they're happening. Loss of control and stall is the big thing going on. Okay? It hasn't changed. This is the number of accidents, and you can see the green, we only had 10 accidents last year, which is pretty good. We don't know why, but we had 10 accidents. And you can see the yellow is our historic average. That goes back to 1970-something when Gene Hammond started this group. And it's pretty constant at 35 accidents a year. Okay, and you can see the 5-year average, that's the red, that's come down to 20, and hopefully we'll continue on the correct course that we're going. The one that's not good is the fatals. You can see that we are stubbornly killing 6 people a year, regardless of what we do, and that's been for the last 30 years. Okay, sir?
So how have the number of pilots changed in the last 30 years?
The number of pilots is
The number
coming
of
down.
flights?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
so the percentages are going up.
well, hopefully, who's the treasurer of your club? Where's the leadership? Don't all. We sent out a survey card to ask for data on how much you've flown, and hopefully you send it back because we have a real good idea what the numerator is. We have no clue what the denominator is for all this. Okay, we really would like to have that data to figure out what we do. There's a lot of smart people, and I mean really smart people in this community, and they've helped us with the denominator, but it's still a wag in a lot of ways. Okay? So that brings us to the focus. Where do we focus? Do we focus on the number of accidents, like we've been doing with the goal-oriented approach, or do we focus on the fatal accidents? The trustees, as a collective group, with the ex-com from the Soaring Society of America, have said we need to stop killing people. So that's what we're doing.
But Tom,
Sir.
if you focus on the number of accidents, wouldn't that say that the number of fatal accidents is going to go down?
Yes, but if we focus on where all the accidents are happening, which is the landing phase, we're not addressing where people are killing themselves, which is the free flight phase. So we think we've done it. We're patting ourselves on the back, but we think that we have gotten to the point where people are no longer doing high-risk maneuvers of flying from one side of the airport to the other to get to the IP. Sir?
How does this accident relate to other types of flying? Powered aircraft, commercial aircraft, all this type of thing?
We're a little bit higher, but we don't know. And we'll talk about that a little bit as how we relate to other soaring communities around the world. Again, we don't have the denominator to really compare apples to oranges. So yeah, if you see things about low altitude saves, hard deck, don't kill yourself out there on course, that's why we're doing it. Leon.
To Tom's point, last August, I'm standing in a cut wheat field out in western New York, and I saw a glider fly overhead, attempt a low altitude save. His flight trace had him at 600 feet, and then he landed. So Tom's right on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So, you asked about the accidents this year. So this is where our accidents fell into. You notice anything about this chart?
Mostly yellow.
It's mostly yellow, so that's landings. What is missing?
Blue.
You can't tell, yeah. The blue is missing. There were no launch accidents last year. Yay! Okay? Whether it's what we're pushing or whether it's just dumb luck, this is a good thing. And if you look here, this goes on 2018 to 2022. When I first made this slide, it went from 2015 up to 2021. And when we analyzed the data, we found out that 1 out of 4 fatalities in our community was happening with pilots doing a planned PT3 event. Planned. We're going to go out and do this. And 1 out of 4 fatalities were people doing a planned event. So we got to get away from that. And we're pushing that at the FERCs now. And hopefully you guys will see what we're talking about here. And that's where we're at with that, which is good. Okay, cruise flight accidents. There were 4 of them. We had the pick. The guy was thermaling on a ridge. Got too low. Wings hit the trees. Glider pancaked in. He was okay. Glider destroyed. A Russian had wings come apart for whatever reason. The pilot bailed out. And 2 Silents down in Houston, same airfield, same thing. They had some wing problems, and they both landed, and the glider was unusable after that. Okay? But what we are seeing, again, the historical data is showing that most of our fatalities are happening in the cruise phase of flight. And this was the landing accidents for last year. Again, they were the most of them. There was only 5. You can see they're down significantly. And over this 6-year period, you have about a 11% chance if you have a landing accident of having a fatality, which is, it's really down and that's good. So you guys are doing well, okay? So notice anything about this? We had a discus, had a dust devil during a flare. Has anyone encountered a dust devil during flare? How do you know that? I've been flying gliders for 50 years. I don't know that. Okay?
I saw one the other day in Minneapolis.
What's that?
I saw a lovely dust devil yesterday on the street in Minneapolis.
Yes. Okay. So, but do you notice it when you fly through it? So we had a 126 tried to land short. How do you land short? Slow? What? You all agree with that? You're silent? How do you land short?
Pull the air brakes.
Pull the air brakes?
Run out of altitude.
You run out, that's one way.
Energy management.
Energy management. How do you manage your energy? This is amazing. This is a group of glider pilots who don't have an opinion about something. This is incredible. Okay, how do you land short? Where's my CFIGs? How do you tell them to land in a short field?
Steep approach,
Steep approach. Okay,
controlled speed,
controlled speed.
full spoilers.
Full spoilers, come on down. So they wanted to land short, so they do a nice, slow, shallow approach so they could land short. Okay, that's practicing bleeding. Okay, it's just not good. Okay, and then this other one, the glider encountered significant sinking air at the end of the runway. What do you call that? What's that, Leon?
Air brakes open.
So what do you call significant sinking air at the end of the runway?
Sink. A downdraft.
Sink, downdraft.
Wind shear.
Wind shear, you're getting close. You ever heard of the wind gradient? You come down, that wind out there, how fast does that wind blow 1 foot off the ground?
Not as fast as it is up there.
Right. So when you come down through that, what is the glider going to do?
Airspeed decreases.
Airspeed decreases, and then what happens to your rate of descent?
Increases.
Increases, and you land
Short.
short. Okay? Does the wind blow out here like this often?
Yes.
Yes. Where's the instructors? I don't want to pick on Dick. Do you teach wind gradient mitigation?
Yeah, they do.
You should, yes. Okay? And we'll talk about the wind gradient in a little bit, okay? But this is from the BGA. What you should do, wind decreases the ground, wind gradient. Okay? If you look back through the accidents, you will see page after page after page of, I encountered significant sinking air at the end of the runway. No. They ran into the wind gradient. And if you look at it in that light, when you do the steep approach with lots of energy coming screaming down through it, it becomes a non-factor. And hopefully that's what you're all teaching. Yes?
I'm going to ask a question that maybe everybody else knows. I don't actually fly. We have on either end of the field farms that use sprinkler systems. Would there be an expected change in the wind gradient because the sprinkler is operating?
I don't know. I've never thought about that because I learned to fly in Illinois and we would just take all that out of it because at the beginning of the year there was no corn and at the end of the year the corn was this tall. So,
Okay.
So we just,
Wondered.
yeah, that's a good question though, okay? So that's the wind gradient, okay? And then we had one unknown accident. You can see that from the trace there, 77 degrees nose down, 250 feet. The flaps were in the D2 or the thermaling 2 ident or indent, and the landing gear was up. So what do you think this pilot was doing?
Stretching it.
Thermaling, okay? What happens at 500 feet when you stall the glider?
You ain't got much time to recover.
You don't have much time to recover. You have to go, oh, I've stalled the aircraft. You have to process that. Now you have to put some control inputs in. Now the glider has to say, oh, the pilot wants to not stall. And you have to do all that. It gets to a point where you don't physically have the altitude to recover. No matter how sharp you are, how good you are, the glider says, oh, you want to stall it at 500 feet? Let's go. Sir.
And if someone was trying a thermal, they could have just as easily flown in the sink.
They could have easily just flown in the sink, yes. So what's the thing about thermals down low? Are they nice, wide, and smooth, or are they tight and rough? Okay, they like a road in Austria, tight and rough, or they like a freeway in Los Angeles, wide and smooth?
Tight and rough.
Tight and rough, yeah. Okay, and again, we'll talk about that when we talk about stalls, about how you've got everything against you, and that's why we say the hard deck. And when I say hard deck, that means that's an altitude that I've sat down with my cup of coffee, and I've analyzed my abilities, my glider, and I said, when I get down to 700 feet in my Ventus AGL, if I don't get a thermal, the landing gear comes down and I'm landing. Period. End of story. I made the decision sitting in my living room with a cup of coffee as opposed to out on course at 700 feet. It's analogous to when we were on the catapult at night. If the catapult failed, when did I make the decision to eject and give the aircraft back to you, the taxpayers?
Before you got in the aircraft.
Before I got in the aircraft, exactly. Okay? That's what we want to foster, that you make those critical decisions in a very controlled, calm environment where you're not under the pressures of trying to get back and all that. Okay? Land outs suck, but, you know, they're fun. Okay? So now you got all this information. What do you do with it? Okay? So you ever heard of OSTIV? The organization, the International Scientific and Technical Organization. Anybody use SkySight? That's where this comes from. Anybody fly a European glider? That's where all the certifications come from. Anybody ever listen to a roadshow safety seminar? That's where those, that's where those people come from. Okay? And you can tell it's European because look how they spelled organization. That's a screenshot of their website. Okay? So I've never seen it spelled like that. But myself aside, these are really, really, really smart people who are out there looking at safety issues in the soaring community. Okay? So they came up with this thing called FlyTop. Moderne Flugsicherheitstraining. What's that mean? Deutsches? Modern flight safety training. Okay? And Dr. Ulsch came up with these things. He looked at Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Great. Oh, 3 little countries in the center of Europe. Okay, what did he conclude? You can't learn from accidents anymore. Heresy! Oh my gosh, stone him! Okay? It does not improve safety. Well, oh my gosh, that can't be. And he said safety work should not concentrate on accident analysis. Oh my gosh, I'm going to spin in. I'm getting the vapors. I may have to sit down. Okay? And what he said was we need a new methodology. Okay? So, what he found out was that flying is usually organized in clubs. Okay? Most of the flying takes place in club ships owned by clubs. 30 to 100 members, often close surveillance of the members, and the CFIs are unpaid volunteers. Does that sound like anything you know?
Day in and day out.
Day in, day out. This is your club. And it's all the clubs all around there, just like that, okay? So I got involved in 1974, and the reason people are crashing has not changed. Okay? As Miss Swift says, there's nothing new. Okay? Nobody gets this joke either. Okay. Okay, but there's nothing new. We have not come up with creative ways to kill ourselves. Okay? We're all copycats at this point. So where does he get his data? DE is Germany, CH is Switzerland, and AT is Austria. 1/3 of all the glider pilots in the world are in those 3 countries. And in 2022, he took the OLC data, 55% of the cross-country claims came from those 3 countries. So it's a pretty good sample size that he's working with, okay? And what he found out was that the risk of dying on a glider has not changed in the last, what's it say there, 30 plus years. And you can see our thing there where we've been killing 6 people a year forever. They're doing the same thing in Germany, they're doing the same thing in Switzerland. Okay? The Germans kill each other at a rate of about 15 fatal accidents per 1 million launches. If you extrapolate our data, that's the same thing. The Swiss are killing themselves at 35%, or 35 fatals per 1 million launches. So again, analyzing statistics, what does this tell you if you decide to go on a European soaring vacation? Let's go to Switzerland, exactly. Okay? And he gets into it a little bit, but he doesn't know why the accident rate is so much higher in Switzerland than it is in the other 2 countries. They're basically flying in the same conditions. He doesn't know why. Okay? So why don't we learn anything more from accidents? Any idea? No? Sir?
Well, there were a lot of flights that were successful.
Okay.
Why were they successful?
Okay.
and these guys weren't successful.
Okay.
You don't always know why.
Okay, so what we did was, we built better gliders, right? Okay, I mean, look at a K7 versus a DG1000. Which one is safer? Or which one is built better? Okay, we build better pilots. We figured out how to train you. We build better procedures. We said, well, if you do this, you're probably not going to do very well. And we built better rules, regulations, and laws. We've got the FAA, EASA, they've all gotten involved. And so what we've effectively done is filtered out all those accidents. Okay? So this is what he found out, that up until the year 2000, the accident rates around the world steadily decreased. And around 2000, 2005, somewhere in there, they plateaued. And you go, oh, that's just gliders, right? What he found out was that you name the category of aircraft, you name the country, you name the class of aircraft, it's done the same thing. Since 2000, it's plateaued. Wow. Okay? So what do you do about that? That committee you belong to, the GAJSC, that is a very hard nut for them to crack. They don't know what to do. Okay? Because the world doesn't basically know what to do. So what are the properties of the remaining accidents? They're dominated by human factors. What does human factors mean?
Us.
Bad decisions? What else?
Sometimes a bad match between the person and the equipment.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I've never flown an ASW-27. I've only flown a 126, so I'm going to go out and fly it today. Is that a good decision? Probably not, no. Okay, human factors. My wife says I have to be home at 4 o'clock for the grandbaby's birthday party. And I'm out on course at 2 o'clock low. Am I going to make good decisions?
Your wife's gonna forgive you.
Okay? Yeah. Okay? So. Yeah.
Well, did she say if you get home late, you're gonna be dead?
Yes. Dead man walking. Okay? So sometimes same type of glider or pilots, it's sensitive to the operation. Are the problems and risk factors that you have here, are they same as what I experienced down in Pensacola?
No.
No. Okay? You got the wind blowing like crazy out here. You can't see a tree for 5 miles out there. Okay? We have off the end of the runway big forests, so you know they're different things. Okay? What you do here that does well does not transfer down to Pensacola. What we do well may not necessarily transfer up to here. Okay? And it does not transfer from one organization to another. Okay? So what works well at the power flying school here may not work well for the glider operation. You have to make it very specific. So what does Dr. Osh say? He says that you can no longer have reactive safety. Somebody did something stupid. Who here has done something stupid in an airplane? Okay, all raise your hands, yes. Okay, so you got to react to that. Well, that's reactive safety. What he's saying is you have to embed yourself in a safety culture. Okay, safety management system. Oh boy, yay, let's have a safety management system. Okay, the airlines do that, the military does it, and they started that in the DCHAT companies. What is a safety management system?
Well, the way you do things.
The way you do things, yes.
And it sometimes is a safe system and sometimes not.
Okay. Might it have 4 specific components?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, I like this picture. The control of your SMS must be local. I forgot. I got the slides out of order. Okay. What are they doing there, Dick?
Looks like we have the scales out to weigh the aircraft.
Oh, okay.
And someone is standing on the scale.
Okay. But it has to be local. You have to have policies and objectives. You have to have a risk management plan. You have to have safety assurance and safety promotion. Who sets the policies and objectives?
We will.
Who's we?
Our club for our local spot.
Okay, so I come in one day, I just joined the club, I decide for whatever God-ever reason, I decided to move up. I decided to move to Minnesota, it's beautiful up here from Florida, and I come in, can I start dictating what's going on?
No.
No, so who makes those decisions? Who invited me here?
Our leadership or our members.
The leadership, yes, it comes from your office, Chris. You're the one that has to set the policy.
The board with the instructors.
Yes, it flows downward, it doesn't flow up. Okay, so you have to say, yes, we're going to do that. So what's the safety risk management?
Policies and procedures.
Well, policies and procedures, you made that. So I want you, when you walk out to the flight line, I want you to wear floppy shoes and a red nose.
Okay.
Okay? You laugh. Why do I want you to wear the floppy shoes and red nose?
So you look like a clown?
If I'm gonna fly like a clown, I should look like a clown, right? But the thing is, your safety risk management is you've identified the threats. Remember the mouse with the cheese? You've identified the threats, and now you brought it to the organization's attention, and now you're developing mitigation strategies. What's safety assurance?
Well, it might be me asking if somebody has actually done their pre-flight check before they bring the glider online.
Right. What else can it be? It's in that same vein. What else can it be?
Checklist discipline?
Checklist discipline, that's more the instructors. What else can it be?
First flight with an instructor.
That's part of it. But what it is that from Chris's office, there's somebody who goes around and makes sure that you're doing the things you said you were going to do. If I were to read your takeoff procedure, or if I didn't know anything about your takeoff procedure, and I went out and watched 4 launches, would I be able to figure out what your takeoff procedure is?
I
Yeah.
should be able to.
Should be, but will I?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay?
you will.
If you're all doing it the same way, you're doing it safety assurance. Okay? And then safety promotion, what's that? That's getting people from out of town to come in and talk to you. Okay? So that's where it is. Safety policy, you have to, here's the way we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to make sure we're doing it, and we're going to promote it to everybody. That's what it is, okay? What's a just safety culture?
It's non-punitive.
Non-punitive, yeah, what else?
Putting safety foremost. I mean,
Okay.
it's gotta be at the top of the list,
So you haven't soloed here yet, Tom, right?
right?
Okay? And Leon's back there. He's a competent racing pilot, world known. Should the standards for you and Leon be the same?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Well, I mean, which standards? Safety standards?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it falls on your office to make sure that happens. If the pilots who are experienced with the big gun ships get treated different than the students, what are the students going to learn from that?
Go buy a big gun ship.
Go buy a big gun ship, and then I can do all this silly stuff. Okay, so you have to treat everybody the same, and it has to have a top level commitment that the leadership says this is the way we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, the golf course is down the street. Have fun. Okay, you know that's one thing you can do. Okay, so the organization talked about that. Does that make sense for a safety management system? So the question I would ask: Do you have one here?
I think we have not, we do, not in those terms specifically, not structured in that way necessarily, but.
Okay.
Breakable manual.
What?
The club manual, breakable.
Yeah, we have an operations guide that's published that all members are supposed to know. And a good portion of the content of it pertains in one way or another to safety.
Okay. Yeah, so you have something in place. Sir?
Tom, I was gonna say, even more importantly, I have never been out on the field, on the flight line, where instructors have not advocated safety as being, you know, just the ultimate thing to be concerned about. Have fun, learn how to fly the plane, but safety is where it's all at. If safety falls apart, then none of that other stuff is gonna happen. So I think more than having it written down and stuff, I haven't experienced any instructors or other club members that haven't talked about it in those terms.
Okay, that's good. You know, part of this is you have all this in place, evidently, to understand that you are actually doing that and to hopefully foster it. You know, the fact that I'm here says that you're concerned about it. The fact that you have not, the faces I see out there are not going, holy cow, I've never seen anything like that before. That tells me a lot, okay, that you're actually doing that stuff. And what you say, you know, you haven't soloed it here yet, that says a lot, okay? So hopefully that is what you guys are all getting into. Okay? So, we're through with all the other stuff. Now it's time to get to the basics. One thing, what do you guys think of these statistics review? Did you like that? Secret ballot? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay? Yeah, I've been very surprised that people really like that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the basics.
I do have a question.
Sir.
So about the statistics. So is there a way to break down racing versus around the airport flights, or, you know, the purpose of the flight?
we did a study, when you're in a race, the SSA puts your trace on the website that anyone can download in the world. And we downloaded all the traces, and we started analyzing them. And we had some high-powered people in the racing community say, we'd like to help. And they turned it against us. So we're trying to do that. We're getting, like I said, we're getting a lot of pushback. What we found was that we call them frequent flyers. The people who thermal low out on course tend to be the same people over and over and over again, who put their traces on have their traces from the races.
So is that why they turned against you?
Well, we're trying to take the fun out of soaring by not having you kill yourself. Okay? You remember how they used to finish the races?
Mm-hmm.
How do they do it, Dick?
High speed, low altitude, 20 feet off the ground at 140 knots.
Okay? What do you guys think of that? Good, bad, indifferent?
Dangerous.
Dangerous. We went to the cylinder finish, 2 miles, 1,100 feet up. What did they say? You guys are trying to take the fun out of soaring. I'm going to launch, I'm going to race against the likes of Paul and Leon out there, and I'm going to go fly a 300-kilometer race and get back, and because I can't do a high-speed pass, it's not fun. I don't think so, you know. Sir?
Is it okay if I put the hard deck in context?
Sure.
For you? So with the hard deck, as a racer, if you went below it, it was called a land out. And so you scored very low for the day. You fell on the score sheet, and that's why there was a pushback.
Yes. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with, okay? Does that answer your question, Roy? Okay. All right. So, loss of control. We talked about that. What is loss of control? This is a promotional flight in St. Louis in 1943. They were building gliders. So they put the mayor, some city council members, his wife, and they went up and flew up. The guy who built the glider, they needed bolts for the wing strut. He didn't have the right bolts that the engineer said, so he just went down to the parts room and got a bolt. Stuck it on there. You can see if you look, the wing that's on the left side actually isn't there where it hits. Okay, that's my loss of control thing. But what is loss of control? Navy guy, put the answer up here.
Nothing works.
What's that?
When nothing works.
Well, nothing works, yeah?
The
Okay.
airplane doesn't do what you want it to.
Yes, you asked the airplane to do something and it said, let me rephrase that. You think that you asked the airplane to do something and it didn't do it. What actually happened is you told the airplane to do something, it did exactly what you told it to do, but it wasn't what you thought it to do. You're in a steep bank, you're low to the ground, you're getting slow, you want to pick that left wing up, what do?
Right aileron, right rudder.
Right aileron, right rudder. What happens to the angle of attack on that left wing?
Goes up.
It goes up. If you're slow, and you're in a wind gradient, this wing is 45 degrees, so can you do the arithmetic? How much higher is this wingtip than this wingtip? 30 feet? Okay. That left wing says, oh, you're increasing the angle of attack, I'm going to stall. And so what's it do? It starts to roll. If you stall that much of the left wing in that right-hand turn, have you effectively stalled the entire wing?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so, no.
Well, you wouldn't think so. I want the airplane to roll right, so I put right stick in. This wing stalls. It says, no, we're not going to do that. What happens to your lift when you stall? Does it increase or decrease? So it decreases, so it falls down. What happens to your drag? It goes up, so it starts to pull back. So I've only stalled that much of the wing, but in all intents and purposes, I have stalled the entire wing. And if I don't act to recover from an entire wing stall, I'm going to end up like this, whatever it was, transport glider. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. Okay, so what causes loss of control?
Bad planning.
Bad flying. What else?
Putting your camera outside your canopy on short final.
Where is that, by the way?
Right there.
Okay. Okay. So loss of control. Notice this picture. You got a scout towing a Atlantic with the spoilers open. Okay. Poor judgment. That poor aeronautical decision making. What is aeronautical decision making?
Not anticipating.
Flying the plane, what else?
Recognizing your limitations.
Recognizing your limitations. If you're out in the pattern, how many aerodynamic decisions do you make as you come around the pattern?
You're doing math the entire time in your head.
Well, math is f of x is 0, right? You're doing arithmetic, right? Oh my gosh, guys. So how many, you're making lots of decisions all the time. And you're making it based upon the inputs that you have, your experience, your training, all that. So poor judgment. And I would say that these 6 are subs of the poor decision making. Okay? Failure to recognize the stall, failure to comply with regulations. Do you always comply with regulations?
Try to.
Anyone ever circled up the cloud base? No, of course not. That's illegal. Okay? Failure to maintain airspeed, failure to follow procedure. Do you follow your procedures all the time?
Usually.
Most of the time, usually. So yeah, so that's not all the time. Okay, so that gets into it. Piloting experience and proficiency. What about fatigue? Do you make good decisions when you're fatigued?
No.
Okay, yeah. When are you best able to make aerodynamic or aeronautical decisions in the cockpit?
Before you get in the cockpit.
Before you get in the cockpit, yeah. You're not stressed out, nothing. All this comes together, okay? And use of, don't use illegal drugs or alcohol. Ma'am.
I'm gonna throw in one extra, since we live in Minnesota, sometimes we have a long spring that's not so hot, not very warm, and then suddenly we'll have a spike in temperature and it'll be 90. I have seen people on the field who are not doing well in that sudden 90-degree day.
Mm-hmm.
And they've usually got enough sense to stay out of the cockpit, but sometimes they need to be shooed home.
Okay. Yeah. So that's part of your safety management system, is to recognize that people are undergoing that stress and to take actions to mitigate it. Okay? So that's loss of control. Does that kind of beat it into the ground? Thumbs up, thumbs down, see your ballot. Okay, we beat it on the ground. Okay. So, who in here does checklists? Okay, all of you. What environment do you operate in? Are you in a crew environment? Are you in a single pilot environment? What are you?
Single pilot.
Single pilot. What about when you're out in that ASW or that ASK-21? Are you single pilot or dual pilot?
Depends on the day. If you're going with an instructor or bringing somebody with you.
Okay, how many people are required to be in the aircraft? One. So by definition, it's a single pilot environment. Okay? So you got 2, so you got a resource out there. Okay, so how do you do your checklist?
Unknown caller.
Okay, sell. Okay? So how do you do your checklists?
I read them, they check them.
Okay, do you do that all the time?
I do.
You do it in the air?
No, I don't fly.
You don't fly, okay.
That's on our checklist.
Why do you memorize the landing checklist?
Well, you have fewer things to deal with and
What do you mean?
It's hard to read while you're flying.
Ah! So I don't want to be going along with my head down, reading a checklist as I'm walking along and walk into that thing? Okay? So the FAA's guidance is that use a written checklist when time and conditions allow. And when you're in critical phases of flight, you need to have a memorized checklist. That's right out of the practical test standards, which any certificated pilots in here? I'm sure you all looked at that and all read it. Okay? So use a checklist as time allowed. What's it mean to aviate, navigate, communicate?
That's the order you ought to do.
Prioritize.
You ought to do it. So what does it mean to aviate? Fly the plane. What does it mean to navigate?
Talk on the radio.
What's that?
Either talk on the radio or, oh, sorry, I jumped one.
Yeah.
Know where you're going.
Yes, okay.
Know where other people are going too.
Yes, that's all part of it. Notice that the last thing is communicate. What's the thing that we really like to do in the aircraft?
Talk on the radio.
Talk on the radio. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so fly the plane, that's good. So, how do you do your checklist? Is it a to-do list or is it a checklist?
Checklist.
So what's the difference between a checklist and a to-do list?
You don't, a checklist is you have to do everything on the checklist. A to-do list, you can pick and choose things But a checklist has a sequence.
Yeah, checklist has to be done in order.
Okay, the to-do list doesn't have to be done in order?
No, you just gotta get them all done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or whatever you get done.
A to-do list, you go through it and you do it as you hit it. You read a line item, you do it. A checklist, you go through, memorize it, do the stuff, and then you go back and read the line item and make sure you actually did it.
Okay,
So there's a risk with a checklist of just checking them off and then saying, okay, now I'll do it.
okay,
And you could wind up forgetting something.
okay. What the airlines learned, what the military learned, is that, like you said, Nate said, I'm sorry, is a to-do list is altimeter, set. Okay, you don't want to do it like that. You want to get in the, you want to establish a routine, get in the glider, strap yourself in, start over here, hit everything that you can touch all the way around, and now you're ready to enter the checklist where you go, altimeter is set to 600 feet. Yes, it's set. My belts and harnesses are on secure. Yes, they're on secure. Okay, like that. What does that do? How many times have you checked things? Twice. Am I more or less likely to trap an error if I do it twice?
More.
More likely, yeah, okay? So that's the way you do it. And the instructors, if you teach your students from day one to do it this way, will they know any other way? No. That's just the way we've always done it, okay? So we push that. So what are you actually looking at when you do this ABC checklist? When you get to the first C, controls, what does that mean?
Free and correct.
What's that?
Free and correct.
How do you check that they're correct?
Well, you put in one position, you look out and see where the ailerons are.
Okay.
Tail.
Look out, ailerons, air brakes.
Okay.
Around the elevator.
So, what do you think of this? I would contend that when I'm doing my pre-flight, I pull the stick back and I watch the elevator do what? Go up. I push the stick to the right. Which way does the right aileron go? Up. Okay? I check that on the pre-flight. When I get in here to do this, I'm making sure that my fat thighs are not in the way of the stick as it's moving around. Okay? And why I'm making an emphasis of this is that when you're doing these things, have a very technical reason for why you do it. Okay? You know, the altimeter is set. Do you set it to 0 or do you set it to the field elevation?
Field elevation,
Why do you set it to the field elevation?
because I might go someplace else and I need to know what the altitude is.
Okay, so what other reason would you set it to field elevation?
Comply with federal aviation regulations.
There you go.
When I go west or.
FAR 91-121, yes. It says to set it to the field elevation or no altimeter setting within 100 miles of where you are. So you have a technical reason for why you do it. But I can't, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I can't tell you how many times I say, what does controls mean? And people say, I'm checking that they're moving the right way. I challenge you to make sure that that elevator, and when you're sitting in the rear cockpit of that DG, look back and see what the elevator's doing.
Can't see it.
Okay? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that's just what we're doing. Okay? So CB SIFT, anybody use that? What's ballast? Shouldn't I have checked that on pre-flight?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay? It's things like this. When you do a checklist, I really don't care what checklist you use. If you guys have a checklist that's specific to here, great. Use it. Everybody uses it. But have a very specific reason why you're looking at what you're looking at. Okay? So landing checklist, that's the famous U-stall. Okay? How long does that take to do?
Not long.
Not long. Yeah, okay, so you need to memorize it, all that, and go in and land. Okay? So we're going to talk about stalls. This is my first disparaging thing about the Air Force, if anybody could do it.
Oh, didn't it used to be full stall?
It can be foo stall, flaps, undercarriage, speed, trim, air brakes, lookout, land. Okay? So do you do that with a flow and then go to the checklist, or you just do it as you're doing it?
Yes, no.
What's that?
Yes, no.
And?
Oh, the do list and then the checklist.
Okay, yeah. Get the speed set, get the trim set. Okay, now I'm ready to enter the checklist. Yeah, my speed's where it is, the trim's set, the flaps are set, everything is set. Now come in and land. Okay? So stalls. So, what is the angle of attack?
The angle between the relative wind and the direction of flight.
Well, it's more specific than that. The answer's on the board. Chord line, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So that's what angle of attack is. So why does a wing stall?
Because it quits flying.
Too high.
Okay, so why does it quit flying?
Critical angle of attack, you exceed it.
Okay,
There isn't enough air going over it.
You get turbulence over the top of the wing.
okay. Why do you get turbulence over the top of the wing? Talk to
Because
me.
there's not enough energy in the airstream to contribute to laminar flow, so you get separation.
I stalled an A4 at 250 knots. I had plenty of airflow. It still stalled. Why did it stall?
There wasn't enough energy in the airflow to
The
make that
angle
turn
of
at
attack
250 knots.
over the wing, was exceeded, the flight parameters.
I exceeded the angle of attack. Does a wing stall for any other reason?
No.
You take off in those big jets and you hear that roar, that big growl when they first throw the power to it. Why do you hear that?
Or
The fan blades are set for 250 knots. They're not set for standing still, so their fan blades are stalled. Okay? That's why you hear that. It's another airfoil. Any airfoil, if you exceed the angle of attack, will stall. Period. End of story. There's not 6 signs. There's no I got too slow. You've exceeded the critical angle of attack.
So why
Okay.
did it happen to you?
What's that?
So why did it happen to you at 250 knots?
Because I was learning how to dogfight the thing, and I came over the top, and I saw the other person down there, so I just reefed as hard as I could on the stick, and it kind of shuddered and said, "We're not going to do this," and stop rolling to the right. That was quite entertaining. On your dime, thank you very much. Okay, but
Learning
it,
experience, as it were.
yeah, but it taught me to, you know, you had to feel the glider. Can you feel when the glider is about to stall?
Yes.
Sure you can. That's one of the signs, that's one of the things you can use to help you keep the, okay? So what about gust factors? When you fly into an upward gust, what happens to your angle of attack?
Increases.
It increases. Why does it increase?
Air's coming up this way.
Yeah.
Relative wind.
Vector sums, right? You know, you put it all together, and if you actually do the math there, if you fly into a 100 foot per minute gust at 60 knots, you're going to increase your AOA 1 degree. You're going to 126, you're at 40 knots, and you fly into a 500 foot per minute gust, you're going to increase the AOA 7.5 degrees. Okay? You put some aileron down, what's the wing going to do? It's going to stall. Okay? So that's what you got going. And those thermals down low, Paul, what are they? Sorry.
Thermals down low, gusts.
Gusts, lots of gusts, okay? That's where you're more prone to having a gust-induced stall. Okay, Bruno, you look at his videos out there. There's a great one where he's flying along. He's at 45 knots. He's in a nice turn. You can see the variometer peak up. And the next thing you know, the glider's spinning to the right. You know, he didn't do anything, but he flew into the gust, and the wing said, "We're not going to do this anymore," and off it went. Okay? So we talked about the ailerons. You put the aileron down, what happens to your AOA? It increases. Put it up, what happens? What happens to your drag when you put that aileron down? What's that? It goes up, right? So if you stall this wing, you've got pro spin controls in without any rudder in it. Okay? What are the 2 things you need to spin an aircraft? What's that? Stall, AOA, what else?
Not coordinated.
Well, what is not coordinated called? I'm from the south. What's that called? Yaw. Okay. Oh. Do I have to use the rudder to introduce yaw? Can I use the ailerons to introduce yaw? Sure can, yeah. Does the aircraft care?
No.
No. Okay, if I get stalled AOA and yaw, we're going to spin. Off we go. Have fun. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with here. So what are these things? Airspeed indicators. You have a 21 here, right? What does this actually measure?
Air pressure.
What kind of air pressure?
Dynamic air pressure.
Okay, so it measures pitot pressure. What else does it measure? Static pressure. So this actually measures the difference, okay? Have you ever flown that 21 with a full boot of rudder in with a big huge slip?
Yeah.
And you're doing 60 miles, 60 knots when you start? Where's the airspeed indicator go to?
Way down.
Way down. Okay, so is it reliable?
No.
So you have to understand what the instrument does. Okay? What's this red line on it?
Never exceed.
B&E. Is that a limit or is that a goal? Okay, yeah. Okay, so So you have to understand it depending on what you're doing, okay?
Number you
What,
want when you're 20 foot off the ground.
yeah, what's the yellow arc?
Caution.
Caution range.
Caution operating range. What's the green arc?
Happy.
Normal?
Normal operating range. Where is VA shown on here?
It's not.
What?
It's not.
It's not. No, okay, good. And what's the white arc?
This is a flaps range.
The flap speeds, yes. Supposedly, I can't have the flaps out over 115 knots, okay? So that's what that is. And we'll talk about the yellow triangle, which I hate in a little bit, okay? So preventing aerotow accidents. Everybody doing okay? Anybody need a break? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, press on. Preventing aerotow accidents. Want to talk about, you know what kiting is? Yeah. So we started looking at this. The Brits have been real into this. Last 13 years, 29 accidents, 7 fatals, 3 due to kiting, and 1 serious due to kiting, okay? So why does kiting happen? What is it?
You get distracted, lose control.
Loss of control, right?
Okay, well, loss of control. Which direction is a loss of control? Up, okay? What happens when the glider climbs?
Hold on the tail of the tow plane.
Pulls on the tail of the tow plane, yeah. Okay? There is a wonderful video out called 3 Seconds to Crash.
We've
Okay.
all watched it just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, good, excellent, dang. Okay, so you've seen, that's the screenshot of the front, and then this is the accident that they detail. Okay, at 46, you can see the glider's right there, but it started to kite. Okay, what happened on this incident? Any idea?
Canopy came off.
The canopy flew open. It's a 126, so which way did it fly open? To the left. So which hand do you close the canopy with when it's over to the left? You take your hand, you reach over this, okay? What are you not doing at that point?
Flying the plane.
Flying the aircraft. Will the glider fly with the canopy open?
Yes.
Sure will. Okay, so fly the aircraft. You can see this is at 46. There's 47, it's starting to go up. There's 2 seconds later. See how high the glider has gotten? Mercy. Okay? There's 3 seconds later. There's 4 seconds later. Okay? It happens in a flash. What's the tow plane doing? Okay? What is holding the tow plane in the air at this point? The glider, the rope on the glider. Okay? The pilot is just able to maintain the pitch. Okay? And there's 52. The glider is still attached. Yeah. You can see how you can see the tow plane is descending. Okay? And then there is 14 seconds after the thing started, the Scout is about to burst into flames right there. So it happens fast. Okay? So what is actually going on? This is from the BGA again. In order for the glider to get from here at the bottom up to the top, where does it get its energy from? The tow plane. Does that make sense? Okay, so what's the tow plane going to do? It slows down. Okay, you're flying the tow, and the next thing you know, you start to rotate forward. What do?
Pull back.
You pull back. Yeah, at that point, you're toast. Okay, it's just not a matter of what's going to happen, but when and how far down the runway you're going to get. Okay, so this is what the BGA says. They said this has been revised when they first did this back in 2002, I believe. They said it would take 800 feet. Now they revised it to 1,500 feet. So take that for what it's worth. They did this thing called safe aerotowing.
Again, Tom?
What's that?
What was that about 1,500 feet, please?
What the BGA says, their tests that if you start a kiting event, if you get to the point where the glider is still attached and the rope hasn't broke, it's going to take you 1,500 feet to recover. The tow plane.
Vertical?
Yes.
The tow plane needs 1,500 feet below him to be able to pull out.
Yes. Because you're going to rotate forward. Now you got to get the airspeed back. You got to get control authority so that you can pull up, and then you have to not miss the ground. Or you have to miss the ground.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So, hey, you're paying attention. That's good. I like it. Okay, but that's what they said. And then they have this. If you've seen the video, embedded in that is a link that will get you inside the BGA firewall, and you can actually go look at this. Safe aero towing. This is the old one. It says 800 feet, but again, you can see the glider and the tow plane have essentially become a system that's rotating, and that's how you have to think about it. You know, you're not alone. The tow plane is out there with you, and that's dramatic. You know, point straight down. At that point, the rope would have broken. Okay, So they talk about safe aero towing. Really good, look through it at your leisure. The one thing I would caution you, left hand on the cable release, is that a good idea? You start your takeoff roll and you got your left hand right there. Is that a good idea?
And if you're holding onto it, you have it right near it.
Okay.
But acceleration,
Oh, you mean there might be videos out there where people are doing that because it's a safe thing to do, and the next thing you know, they're going into the trees because they hit a bump, and, okay? So just be cautious of that, okay? Flap gliders, keep your hand on the release until positive lateral control is assured before changing flap setting. Yeah, I don't know. Does the release move? Is it usually where it was when you started out? You know, should you have the muscle memory to be able to reach down and grab it? You know, that's the things I would caution you, but have a plan out there that if you need to release, you can get to it and pull and you're done. All right, cool. So if you lose sight of the tow plane,
release.
release. If you lose sight of the tow plane,
Release.
release. Once again, if you lose sight of the tow plane, release. Okay, good. All right, anything else on tow plane kiting? Nope, okay, launch failures. We're having a, what's that, an unscheduled?
Rapid unplanned disassembly.
Rapid unplanned disassembly, thank you. Okay, so we refer to launch failures as PT3. What's that mean?
Premature termination of the tow.
Premature termination of the tow. Thank you, Dean Carswell, for getting that. But that's, can you have a PT3 on a winch?
Yep.
How about on a aerotow?
Yes.
How about on a self-launch?
Yes.
Yes, okay, you can have it on any of the three methods that we have. Okay, so what we want you to do is brief your contingencies every flight. Any airline pilots in here? Okay, in the back, of course. Yeah. Did you brief an engine failure prior to every takeoff?
Yes,
Why?
it's gonna happen. That's the mindset.
That's the mindset you have to have.
An engine failure, and when it does, I'm ready for it.
Okay, what happens when it doesn't happen?
We're happy.
We're happy. Wow, you saw the slides. I like it. Okay, be ready for it to happen. Okay,
So you know how to make it get real quiet in a glider when you're the instructor in the back seat and the students in the front seat?
How?
I tell them, be prepared for a PT3 on this flight. And then it gets very quiet, and I said, you plan on it, but be happy when it doesn't happen.
When it doesn't happen, yes. And that's what we want you to do, okay? So we want you to do the PT3, have a plan. What does it mean to have a plan?
Decide ahead of time.
Decide ahead of time.
Think it through.
Think it through, okay?
Sometimes we have alfalfa, sometimes we have corn.
So does that make a difference?
It does, if you have more choices of where to go, if you've only got alfalfa.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. So have a plan before every flight. The airline pilots do it. What's the first thing you do? Fly the glider. What's the second thing you do?
Fly the glider.
What is the third thing you do?
Fly the glider.
Fly the glider. When in doubt, fly the glider. That think before you act. We had an accident probably 12 years ago now. Person in a 126, they're on tow, 100 feet. They heard a bang. So what'd they do?
Pull the release.
Pull the release. Why?
They thought, well, I
Because they heard a bang.
I hear a big bang and I look up and the tow plane's right there. Tow plane's right there. Do I need to do anything?
Fly the glider.
I need to fly the glider. Do I need to get off? Tow plane's not going anywhere. So analyze, you know, everything's good. I don't know what that bang was, you know, but we'll figure that out later, okay? So have a plan, okay? So what specific actions are you going to take?
Depends on where you are.
Okay, is this a two-step process like going to the moon? Step one is we launch the rocket. Step two is we land on the moon, right? It's easy, right? Okay, so how do you break this down? I'm taking off on runway 9 today, or runway 27, whichever. I'm taking off south because the wind's out of the south. Okay, is that different than if I'm taking off on runway 9? Do you brief that? Okay, so do you brief it from the time you start the takeoff roll until the tow plane is airborne?
You start before then.
What's that?
You You start when you get in the glider.
Okay, so I'm in the glider, I'm all strapped in, checklist complete, wings lifted up, go, the tow plane starts moving forward. I see a big puff of smoke come out of the tow plane, what do I do?
Release.
Release, then what do you do?
Glider.
Okay, be more specific. Do you go straight into the wreckage of the tow plane in front of you? Do you turn to the right? Do you turn to the left? What do you do? What do you do with your left hand? What do you do with your right hand?
All planned out.
You need to plan it all out. I'm encouraging you to get into nauseating detail. That I see the tow plane, all of a sudden abort, I release, I move to the right, I get full spoilers, and I get heavy braking. Okay? Would I much rather run into the tow plane, or would I rather run into one of those yellow cones out there? Yeah, but that's the nauseating detail I want you to break it down to. What's up to your turnaround altitude? Does your turnaround altitude change?
Yes.
Why would it change?
Depends on a lot of different factors. Depends on what tow plane's pulling you, depends on what kind of glider you're in, how many people, how much weight, the wind, the ground, lots of different factors.
Okay, so I'm taking off today in a 126 with this big wind. Where am I going to get the 200 feet?
Before you pass into the runway.
Okay, do I want to turn around to make a downwind landing?
No.
No. So it's different. So we highly encourage you to analyze and make each thing, each briefing specific to the day. When we get 200 feet, we're going to turn around. Okay, which way are you going to turn?
Into the wind.
Into the wind. Okay, why are you turning into the wind?
So that blows you back to the airport.
So what are you doing besides having it blow you back to the airport?
Keep your airspeed up. Yeah.
You're keeping your airspeed up, because that's the first thing you do when you have the launch failure, right? What do you do with your right hand?
Push the stick forward.
Push. Okay? Then why do you turn into the wind?
Slows your ground speed.
Too far away.
Give you a chance to recover.
Decrease your
But you can keep the,
Somebody said radius back there. What's it do?
Decrease your radius of turn.
It decreases your radius of turn. Okay? So I can pivot around a point. If I got 40 knots of wind out of the south, I'm almost turning on a point. Okay? So, again, what we emphasize is we really don't care how you do it, but when you do something, have a very solid technical reason for why you do it. Don't do it because Dick said that's the way he does it. Okay? Do it for a technical reason. I turn into the wind because it decreases the radius. What angle of bank do you use? What's that? Why 45 degrees? What do you mean you don't stall? Why does the wing stall? We just went over this. Short-term memory, people. Why do we use 45 degrees?
Makes a quicker turn.
So it increases your turn rate. You minimize your turn radius. How long does it take you to make a 180-degree turn at 45 degrees angle bank?
10 seconds.
Depends on your airspeed.
Depends on your airspeed.
Okay. What should your airspeed be?
This higher, higher.
60, 65.
Okay, I'm not very smart. I've got a trim for tow, which is 60 knots. Okay, I'm in a high state of tension and readiness. It turns. What do you think I'm going to be doing? Probably close to 60, right? So again, yeah, 20 degrees per second is going to take you about 10 seconds to turn around. How much altitude are you going to lose in that 10 seconds?
Depends upon what you're flying.
Not very much.
Okay, so do a WAG. You know what a WAG is?
Wow.
There you go, good. Okay, how much altitude are you going to lose?
100 feet.
Why? You're coming down how fast at 45 degree angle bank, 60 knots? 400 feet a minute? 300 feet a minute? Make the math easy. 300 feet a minute. 5 feet a second. 10 seconds to get around. How much altitude am I going to lose? 50, 60 feet.
60 feet. Nothing.
Something like that. That is the type of technical analysis I'm hoping you're doing. Again, not because Dick told me to do this, but because I want you to go into this angle bank because it's going to take 10 seconds to turn around. I'm going to lose anywhere from 50 to 100 feet depending upon conditions, and it's going to set me up. When I roll into that turn, where should my head be?
Over the nose.
Why?
Because when you're out looking on the other side, you tend to lose control over you.
If I do this and look like that, which way did my shoulder just go?
Back.
Back. What do I do with the stick?
Pulling it back.
Pull it back. How far has the field moved from the time the PT3 happened until I turn around and see it?
It's still there.
It's still there, okay? I'm betting that if I make this turn, as I come through the 90, I'm gonna look out and I'm gonna see the field over there. Now you're doing what kind of maneuver at this point?
Landing.
A landing, what kind of landing? Into the landing, downwind?
Downwind.
Is downwind landing an emergency?
No.
For some of us it is, but for you it shouldn't be, okay? Just do a downwind landing. The emergency is over as soon as you get the nose over and start the turn. Now you're going in, okay? That's what we want you to do. Up to abbreviate altitude, the normal pattern. But break it down into nauseating detail like that. Have specific reasons why you do it, and very technical reasons, and hopefully everybody's doing it the same way. Okay?
I got a question.
Sir?
So you had said earlier that there were a lot of accidents on planned PT3s. So is that because the planning wasn't there?
Yes. How do you teach PT3s here? I've only got one instructor in the room. Who are the other instructors? Come on, how do you teach a PT3?
Typically demonstration performance. We talk about it, we do the briefing. Instructor demonstrates, next one the student does.
Okay,
Instructor pops
so
the
what do you
release.
tell your students is gonna happen?
Gonna pull the release at X amount of feet for the first one, and then the subsequent, it can happen at any time.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull the release at 300 feet. What do you do then?
I mean, as long as it's safe and there's no other traffic and stuff around, you pull the release at 300 feet.
Okay, then what do you do?
Fly the glider.
Fly the glider, what's that mean?
Nose down.
Get your nose down, turn, get your nose down, turn speed.
Okay, how far are you gonna push the nose over? 10 degrees down, 20 degrees down?
Enough to maintain your speed.
To the horizon.
Okay, what's your normal attitude for 60 knots in the K-21? 3 degrees down? Okay, is that a good place to pitch to? If you do it fast enough, are you gonna lose much speed? No. Okay, then what are you gonna do?
Figure out where you're gonna land.
What's that?
Figure out where you're gonna land.
So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna check my watch. Yes, it is 14:22. Okay, now I execute my plan. Okay, if you just are spring loaded to do it, what are you gonna do?
Screw it up.
You might screw it up, yeah. So take that breath, at 1 second, 2 seconds, how fast are you coming down at that point? 300 feet a minute, 5 feet a second. If that 10 feet or 15 feet makes a difference between making it back to the field or not, should I really be turning around?
I thought checking your watch in an emergency like that was an Air Force thing.
It is, you know. It is, okay. Yeah, we do take some things from them. You know. So we don't admit that, you know, I mean, I may have to, anyway. So you push it over, roll smoothly into that angle bank. What kind of turn do you want to make?
45.
Coordinated, okay? And you go around. Will the glider turn faster if I put that bottom rudder in? No. Okay, coordinated turn, come on around. So, why do I say that you want to pitch to best L over D plus 5 knots?
The wind might not be quite so steady.
What's that?
It just gives you a little cushion,
What do you mean it gives you a little cushion?
because best L over D is well over stall 5, then best L over D plus 5 is at least 5 more.
Okay. So, what does the glider flying handbook say your approach speed should be?
That's fun, you're gliding.
It doesn't depend on the glider.
1.5 times stall speed?
1.5 times the stall speed in what configuration?
Landing.
Landing configuration plus considerations for the wind. Okay? What speed is really close to 1.5 VSO?
Best L over D.
Best L over D, yeah. Okay, so that's where we get the best L over D plus 5. Do I know what the stall speed and the landing configuration is? No idea. Do I know what best L over D is? Sure do. Okay, that's something I can use. That's why we recommend going to that speed. Okay? Back my way through here, back to this one. So fly the glider, best L over D, execute your plan, smoothly fly the aircraft, and should you rush and make it a big hurry? No. Take your time. Smooth. You're picking up your little grandchild and caressing that child. Okay, make it smooth. Okay? And anyway, okay. So we're gonna talk about approach and landing. What's the goal of the approach?
Safe landing.
Okay, what else?
Stable.
Stable, what else?
Conformity to the traffic pattern.
Possibly,
Clear the road.
Save the airplane.
okay? The goal of the approach is for you, the pilot, to put the aircraft on a predetermined spot of your choosing. Not of someone else's choosing, not of the glider's choosing, okay? And oh, by the way, I'm told that I have to change things up, so I'm teaching from this side of the room now, if that makes any difference. Okay, so what are the elements of a good approach?
Analyze the landing area.
So what does that mean?
Consistent glide slope.
Yeah, what does that mean? Analyze the landing area.
Make
Is
sure
it
there's
see
no
what's in front of
obstructions on
you?
the runway.
Okay, no animals, cars, people, gliders. Okay, what would you do if there was a glider parked right at the intersection of your two runways? What would you do?
Go around.
Go around. Okay. The airline pilot, thank you. So what would you do?
Maybe land short.
Maybe land short?
Runways, yeah.
What else could you do?
See if there's a clear area to land to the right or the left.
There you go. So you have lots of options. Have you analyzed those options? Have you actually thought those contingencies through? I decided to land my duo right in the intersection of the runway. I'm here, I get out, I'm happy. Now you guys are, who's ever doing it is stuck. So you have to analyze the landing area. Do your checklist of communication. How do you fly your downwind? How do you turn to base? How do you turn to final? All that stuff. And now stabilized final, we'll talk about that ad nauseum. And we'll talk about touchdowns, low energy versus high energy versus whatever in the rollout. Okay? So, stabilized approach. What does that mean? Do you have to fly a stabilized approach in a glider?
You should.
Yeah, don't have to, but it helps.
Okay. What does the FAA guidance say?
Yes.
Yes. What does a stabilized approach mean?
It's planned.
It's planned, yes. What else?
On speed,
On speed.
at the right altitude at the right time.
Okay. What would we call that? We would call that a descent
Right.
profile, yes. What about your ground track? You want to fly a prescribed ground track? Okay. Hopefully you have a plan when you enter the downwind. You just keep flying downwind until you get right to the end of your ability to glide back and turn around. What do? Do you have a plan? Hopefully you have a plan. Yes, nod your heads. I have a plan. I'm going to do this, okay? So you do that. So you're on your desired approach course, your approach path. Should you be fully configured? What does that mean?
Gear down.
Landing gear down,
Flap set.
flap set for landing. What else?
Or your aero brakes. I mean if you have that on your.
Yeah, your spoilers at least deployed so that you know that they're working. Okay? So as far as the FAA is concerned, if you're in IMC conditions doing an approach like I did in my 757 a long time ago, at 1,000 feet I have to be stable. You're out in your PA-12 that's over there, when are you supposed to be stable?
500.
500 feet. And where does it say for gliders? Where do you have to be stable at?
100.
100 feet. Where does it say that?
Right there.
Right there. My work is done. Okay? And it's actually in the glider flying handbook. If you look in chapter 7 about approaches, that's where it says you should be stable at 100 feet. That's the only place it says it in all the literature we have. Okay?
I
So
know you, if you weren't stable by about 100 feet, you're way late.
well, that's what the FAA says. If you choose to continue an unstabilized approach, yeah, all bets are off. Okay? You may be out of alignment. You may be otherwise unprepared for landing, and bad things can happen. So that's why they want you to be stable. Okay? Where do you normally get stable when you're flying the glider in the pattern? Downwind. You set the speed, you set the configuration, you set the desired track, you get yourself on profile. You're stable. Okay? Keep it simple. Okay? Work from there. Okay? Does that make sense? Nod your head yes. Okay, good. Okay, so we talked about this approach speed. We talked about it. It's on page 723 of the Glider Flying Handbook, 1.5 VSO plus considerations for the wind. That's really close to best L over D, so apply best L over D plus 5. Sir?
I just wanted to mention another thing about stabilized approach is if you get your stabilized approach and you have like a stabilized final, then you'll be able to recognize other things happening, like the wind gradient or,
Okay.
some other kind of, sink.
Good. Okay. Will the wind change as you come down?
Yes.
Will it change? Which vector will it change? Left, right, up, down, what?
You don't know.
You don't know. Okay, yeah, so if you're not stable, you don't know whether it's you causing the problem or the wind. Okay, so that's a very good reason, thank you. Okay, so that's best over D plus 5. Even the cub up there is waving, nodding in approval. Okay, so why do we fly best over D plus 5?
Safety.
No surprises.
Okay, what's this thing called?
Polar.
Polar. Where is my best performance?
That's already.
You have a blue arrow or a yellow arrow? Which one do you choose? Blue arrow, that's my best performance. We highly recommend that you approach by the yellow arrow. As you come down through the wind gradient, what happens to your indicated airspeed?
Goes down.
Okay, so what does that mean in relation to the polar?
Are you moving back to the blue? Moving to the left.
Okay, so is my performance in relation to the air increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Am I using that physical fact to my advantage or to my disadvantage? I'm using the fact that I know the wind gradient is going to be there. I start to go through it. It starts to move back. I'm actually increasing my performance by actions that I took. Did I have to do anything to increase the performance? No, I just flew it a little faster. That's why we highly recommend that you operate on that side of the curve. Okay? So what's this little thing here?
Approach speed.
Okay, be more specific.
No wind approach speed.
Be still more specific.
Manufacturers.
configuration.
Manufacturers.
And max gross, right?
Okay.
Say, Tom, a lot of people, rumors get around in our community over the years. A lot of people think of that as the best L over D speed on their glider, and it is not.
It is not. It is an EASA requirement. Number E there, a yellow triangle for the lowest approach speed at the maximum gross weight without water recommended by the manufacturer. Where is that speed on this curve?
Not.
It's at ASK 21, 49 knots, right? So where is it?
To the left of the blue.
It's over here. What happens when I fly through the wind gradient? I'm going the wrong way. Okay? That's why we highly recommend you're over here. And if it's the lowest, should you be flying at the lowest? No. Do you do your glider pilots, do you do anything at the lowest? Okay, you do it all to the max, okay? But that's right out of there. But you talk to pilots, you ask them what's their approach speed. Oh, I fly at the yellow triangle. Wrong. Okay, you're not, all these things that you all get, yeah, those are all good. And then you go fly it there. No, bad. Bad pilot. Bad. Okay? So that's why, if it was up to me, I would get rid of that damn thing and not have it on there, but it is an EASA requirement. Okay? Cool. So, how do you do a low energy landing?
But bleed off your lift when you're down ground effect, or,
Your lift? What?
I mean, your speed. excuse me,
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. It's very, that's one of the things that we really highly encourage you. How many in here have a pilot's license? How many of you have a pilot's certificate? Okay, so is it kind of goofy little OCD, which by the way the letters are not in the correct order, but is it a little OCD? Yes, but you're professionals, we want you to think and act like professionals, so use the proper terminology. So, how do you do a low energy landing?
Can we start with a when would you do a low energy landing?
Okay, when?
I always think of it as if you're gonna land out in a short field.
Okay, what if I'm landing out here in this field?
When somebody's out there in the middle of the intersection, maybe?
Okay, the field's wide open, there's nobody out there. Can I do a low energy landing here?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. If I have to do a low energy landing in the field, am I practiced for it if I don't ever do it here?
No.
Does it hurt anything to do it here? No. So why not practice it the way you do it? Do it the same way every time. I'm not smart enough to do different landings for different fields. Okay, I just do it the same way every time. I will recommend you do it. What we say is that a high energy approach equals a low energy landing. Energy approach. Back, you know, however old this picture is. Okay? So what the BGA says that if you want to land short, you come in steep. When you're flying steep, what do you have to have? How does the glider have to be configured? What's that?
A lot of drag.
How do you make a lot of drag?
Spoilers.
Spoilers, okay? What's that do to your angle of approach?
Increases it.
Steepens it, okay? If I am flying that real shallow approach and I shallow it out just a little bit, what's that going to do to my downrange travel?
Extend it.
Extend it a long way. If I've got a little bit of spoiler, how fast am I coming down? A little bit of spoiler. How fast am I coming down?
Not
200 feet per minute.
not fast.
You know, 300-400 feet a minute. If I've got 3/4 spoiler and I'm doing 65 knots, how fast am I coming down? 700-800 feet a minute, okay? Again, these are technical numbers that I highly encourage you to put into your Rolodex. Do you know what a Rolodex is? No, okay. You guys got work to do. How about you? You're not. But put that in there. Know those numbers. Because what happens if I don't change the spoilers when I get down here and start the round out? What's going to happen?
You're gonna drift. Crash. Floating.
What do you mean I'm going to crash? I'm coming down, I got 3/4 of spoilers, there's the ground, I get scared, I start to pull. What's the glider going to start to do immediately?
Decelerate.
What's that?
Descend. Increase.
It's going to start to, you use the correct word the first time.
Decelerate.
It's going to start to decelerate. I'm taking energy out of the system at 800 feet a minute. If I don't change the spoilers and I level off, is energy still going to be coming out of the system?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it's going to start to slow down. If I'm that high off the ground, do I care if the airplane plops on, the aircraft plops on the ground?
Not really.
Not really. Okay? So you burn a whole bunch of energy at the bottom on that round out. Keep everything touch down. What do you do when you touch down?
You get safely off of the runway.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself, Vicki. You're getting ahead. Remember, I do things nauseating, OCD detail. Okay? Okay? What do you do when you touch down?
You keep flying.
Keep flying the aircraft. What does that mean?
Wings level.
Wings level. What do you do with your left hand?
Pull, brake.
Full spoiler.
Full spoilers.
Yeah.
And get on the wheel brake. What do you do with your right hand?
Keep your wings level.
Okay, keep your wings level. Do I pull back and try to pop it in the air? Do I push forward a little bit and put it on the ground?
Stick level, or.
Just neutral.
Neutral, yeah, okay. But again, have an idea what you're going to do with each of your hands. Okay, if you don't think about it, you're not going to do it. Okay, but that's the way you do it to make that happen. Normal speed, 56 knots, steep approach, half spoilers or more. Aggressive round out, full spoiler on touchdown. You're in the back of that Southwest jet. What happens when they slam it onto the runway?
Did the brakes. Spoilers come up.
All the garbage comes out of the wing. It flies up into the air. Okay? If you touch down, if you actually go and practice this, you're going to touch down about 50, maybe 50 knots, around about 45. You're going to start slowing down real fast. Okay? And the more energy you can burn in the round out, the shorter your approach is going to be. Okay? So let's review. Have you ever tried this? The Swedes taught us this. Come in at 1,000+ feet, 52 knots, fly around the pattern, get 700-800 feet, 1,000 feet off the end of the runway, and land. Can you do it? I see lots of heads going. I don't know. Can you do it?
Yes.
Sure you can. Is it something you want to do the first time? Is it something you can go practice?
Yeah.
You would be amazed. You can get 700 feet on a 1,000-foot final. What's your effective L over D to get down?
Final
1,000 over 700, so that's 1.5. You're in a 30-to-1 glider and you're doing 1.5 L over D. You get a lot by you push it over, get 70 knots. Oh my God, the ground's rushing up. You start to come out in about 100 feet. You find yourself right about there, and now you're a normal touchdown. You would be amazed. Go try it. You would just be amazed how fast you can get these things to come down if you use this technique. Okay?
And you're talking about turning base to final at 1,000 feet?
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Again, the first time you do, you go, there ain't no way in heck this is going to happen. And then you come right down. Okay? And it really works. Gradually work up to it.
Right.
But if you can do this, can you get into that short field? Sure you can. Yeah.
What's the 700 AGL where base to final? What's, because are you?
That's the
dipping
record,
down?
that's, I had, when I made this slide, I had to pull numbers. So I was saying, if you do 700 feet turning base to final, and you're at 1,000, 1,500 feet out, you can very easily have to close the spoilers to make the field if you do this technique.
Are you saying 1,000 feet from the touchdown point?
Yep.
700 AGL.
Oh, you're not talking about 1,000 feet altitude?
Yeah.
No, that's
Oh,
1,000
oh.
feet horizontal distance.
This works up to about 1,200 feet. Less than a 1-to-1 ratio. You're a space shuttle coming in. And the thing is that you're slow, you dump the nose over. You would be amazed how much altitude you have to use to accelerate the glider from 45 knots to 75 knots with full spoilers. It just comes right out of it, you know, like in my Mustang when I push the accelerator to the floor and watch the gas gauge go down. Okay?
Gas gauge.
I'm sorry. But it's a tech, the whole purpose of this is to let you know what the glider can do. And hopefully your instructors are working with you on that, saying, hey, let's go out and try this. See what it can do. Okay? Then that little short field ain't so short anymore. Because you know that you can get down. You know you can control it. And it's all about having the knowledge of how to control it. Okay? And OMG, what's that mean? And YMBS me M?
Your mileage.
You must be.
Shagging me, yes. Or some other S word. Okay? But it works. Highly recommend that you try it. Okay? So where can you use this to your advantage? Short fields? Wind gradients?
Any field.
Yeah. If I do this, do I completely take the wind gradient out of the picture?
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah. Am I smart enough if I can do something and I take it out of the picture? Does that help me?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm a whatchamacallit, I can't multitask. So, okay? So like she says there. So, and they used it in World War II. It worked with these gliders. You see where the fence is down there where the farmhouse is? They all land and roll it up. Okay? If you can do it in something like that, you can do it in your DG, you can do it in your 126, you can do it in whatever. So it works then.
Yeah.
It'll work now. Yep. Okay. So again, you remember this publication? Any idea what this one is?
Yeah.
What? It's one of the 3 essential publications you should have in your house.
Stick and rudder.
The Joy of Cooking, The Joy of Soaring. I can't remember what the third one is, but you should have this. It's got all sorts of great stuff. Why the FAA got away from it, I don't know. But this is what happens when you come down to the wind gradient. You will land short. Period. End of story. Think that crash in Dallas with the L-1011 when they came into the wind, when they flew into the wind shear. They knew it was coming. They talked about it. They started bringing the power up, and by the time they got into it, they had 120,000 pounds of Rolls-Royce thrust pushing that thing, and they still landed on the highway. So you will land short. Period. End of story. But anticipate it. Be ready for it. And this is where the BGA talks about shallow approach. You're going to go long if you make a short, if you make a small adjustment. Steep approach, you're not going to go anywhere near as long if you make a small adjustment. Okay? And it works. And if you fly every approach like this every time, when you land in that short field, Vicki, is it going to be a big deal?
We hope not.
We hope not. Is hope a strategy?
How many rocks and cobbles there are in that field?
Well, your mileage may vary, as you said. Okay, but yes, if you do it the same way every time, it's not an emergency. It's not an abnormal procedure, you know, and you can do it out here very easily. Okay, that's the sink of the heavy wind gradient. Assume it's going to be there. Fly your best over D +5. What do you do with your left hand and your right hand when you encounter a wind gradient?
Reduce stuff.
Push forward.
Push them both forward. Okay? Again, get your mind to think about what your body is physically going to do. I'm going to push forward when I get through this thing, and it's going to get me through it. Don't introduce large pitch change due to the ground. What's that mean?
Don't auger it in.
Don't auger it in. Yeah, oh, I got slow. Wham. Okay? Do like the Italians tell you. You're looking good, don't touch nothing. Everything will be okay. Okay, so bring it in. And then if it happens in the round out or the flare, just maintain what you got. Plop it onto the ground. Again, who cares if you fall in from this high? I don't. Okay?
So basically, that's gonna cause you to descend as fast as possible. It's gonna cause you to descend and vertically and horizontally as fast as possible through the wind gradient.
Well, you want to descend at a controlled rate, so
Yeah.
that if you encounter it, you have the energy on the glider to be able to mitigate it. Because if I'm coming down at 600 feet a minute at 60 knots and I fly into that 10 knot wind gradient, now I've got all that spoiler I can close, I've got that attitude I can get back, I'm still on the correct side of best L over D, so I can mitigate that much more easy.
But doing so is gonna increase your rate of descent and your horizontal speed, right? I mean, if you're pitching down and you're reducing spoiler.
So, I'm glad you talked, if you fly through that wind gradient and you're doing 60 knots indicated airspeed and you lose 5 knots of indicated airspeed, what happens to your ground speed?
Probably going slow.
Depends on the head, oh, well.
Because it's gone up because the wind's gone down.
What's that?
Your ground speed is probably increasing because you're going through a slower moving air mass.
I see head shaking. It takes energy to accelerate that mass, right? Does the glider care how fast it's going in relation to the ground? No. It knows it's doing 50 knots in relation to the ground. The wind goes away. How fast is it doing in relation to the ground? 50 knots. Okay? Does the wing care how much the wind is flowing across the wing? Yes. That's where the concern is. Okay? How much lift is the wing making when I'm on approach, coming down 600 feet a minute at 60 knots? How much lift is the wing making?
Not much, very little.
I can tell you exactly how much it's making. Can you?
1G.
So what's that mean? How much lift is it making?
Enough to support the nothing.
The weight of the glider, okay? If the wind decreases, how much lift is it making? Less. Which way is it going to start to accelerate? Down. So you're coming down regardless. So you need to push the stick forward to get the airspeed back, to get the flow back over the wing. So if you come down through the wind gradient and you start to sink and you pull back, what's going to happen?
Sink more.
What's that?
You'll sink faster.
You'll sink. Why will you sink faster?
Because you're trying to slow the plane.
Because you're slowing the aircraft down. You've got a higher angle attack. You're making more drag. So it says, "Oh, he wants to slow. You want to slow down more." So it does that. When it slows down more, what's it do? It starts sinking faster. It's a vicious circle. Okay. It's like when I didn't get home in time for my grandson's birthday party. Okay? Think of it in those terms. Okay. So that's what you got going with that. Does that all make sense to everybody? Okay. Good. All right.
Then how would you, but if you've got a wind gradient, I mean, what are the indications that you have? I mean, how are you gonna know that the gradients, I mean, what indications?
Is there a wind gradient outside right now?
Yes.
How do you know?
The wind's blowing.
The wind's blowing. Okay? If I go out there and the wind is calm, should I assume the wind gradient is there? It doesn't hurt, does it? Okay? If it happens to be there and I assumed it was there, good. If it's not there, does it cost me anything? No. So always assume it's going to be there. It's like the contingency for the launch failure. Plan on it happening, and when it doesn't, I'm good to go. Plan on the wind gradient be there, and when it doesn't happen, oh well, you know, it's just the way it is. Okay?
Well, what's gonna give you the, I mean, you know, if you're on as we call a stable approach, you know, what's gonna be your indicator that you're suddenly gonna wanna pitch down? I mean, you're saying that if there's a wind gradient, you're gonna pitch down and,
Okay. So how do you
spoiler.
How do you tell what the airspeed is in your glider?
Well, the airspeed indicator.
Airspeed indicator. What else? Sound. What else?
Preparedness of the controls.
The control field. What else?
Observation of the headwind. Or
How fast the, I mean, you have some idea where you wanna be in relation to.
If I'm in your K-21 doing 56 knots, it's right here, right? Does that ever change?
No.
No. So I've got the airspeed indicator, I've got the feel of the glider in my hand, I've got the sound that I can hear, I've got the visual sight picture out there. If I've got the sight picture and I start to feel the glider get, you know, the controls change and I start to hear the sound go down, what's that tell you? You're slowing down. So what do you have to do? Speed up. So you've got all these secondary indications from the airspeed indicator. Does the sound of the wind across the glider, does it have any time lag? Does the airspeed indicator have a time lag?
Yeah.
Yes. Which one would you trust more in that situation?
Sound.
Okay, yeah, so you already know all the information, it's just applying it to what's going on. Okay? All right, we need to press on otherwise. So we're going to talk about cross-country safety. Has anyone ever gone cross-country? What's the biggest fear when you go cross-country?
Am I gonna make it?
Landing out, because what happens when you land out? Chris gets really mad because he's got to send somebody to pick you up, right?
He calls his wife.
I'll have to remember that. Okay? So, but there are problems when you're going cross-country. Are there things that you're going to run into out there that might not necessarily be to your advantage?
Yes.
Okay? So you're the little cat walking along there. You know, which dog are you? Are you the cat or the dog? I don't know. Okay? So what are some of the risks when you're navigating? What was your complaint, Marilyn, about your housemate? What does the term "children of the magenta line" mean?
Always follow the GPS.
If I don't have a magenta line, can I go from here to there? It's impossible. Can't be done, right? I don't know how to, impossible. Can't be done. So that's over-reliance on the navigation aids, okay? You got somebody in here that's willing to sell you all this neat stuff here. And, it's all great stuff, but it's limited by your ability to understand what the instrument is actually telling you and how dependent you come. If you're flying with this Udi, and you've got your magenta line here, should you have an idea where the nearest airports are? Yeah. Okay. Is there a requirement for you to carry a navigational chart in the aircraft?
Yes.
Well, not exactly.
No.
No, electronic charts are okay.
I hear, not exactly. Is there a FAR that requires you to carry navigation charts?
No, there is none.
There is not. Okay? You're required to have all the information you need to know to successfully complete the flight. If I'm the tow pilot, do I have to have a navigation chart?
Not if I don't go more than 5 miles from the airport.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm going across the Atlantic in the 767. Do I have to have a navigation chart? Maybe. You head east, you're going to hit England, right? Okay? But
Norway.
Advisory Circular 9178 says that you can use the FAR say you're not required to have a navigation chart, but if you use an electronic navigation aid, it should be what?
Current.
Up to date. They don't use the term current, they say up to date. Okay? So that's one of the things you want to have out there. Okay? And when you're staring at that Udi, what are you not looking at? Outside.
To see.
Yeah, okay. That's why those nice Varios have sound on them, right? So you can look outside. Okay? Is weather a factor when you go cross country? Is this a good cross country day?
Oh,
Why? It's nice and blue. Okay? So, do you ever get fronts that come here and blast on through?
Yeah.
So how do you update your weather in flight?
Eyeball.
Visually.
Look outside. Look outside, yeah. Okay?
Call the AWOS.
You could call up an AWOS. Yeah, what else?
look at the sock.
You can look at the windsock.
Talk to other pilots.
Talk to the pilots.
Trees, water.
What's that?
Trees or water.
Yeah. I got in big trouble in flight training because they asked me which way I was going to land in this field, and I said I'm going to land facing the cows. And they went, what? I said, well, cows always stand with their tails into the wind. And Ensign Johnson, you should not be looking at cows. I was pretty disappointed about that. But there are ways out there to tell what the wind is doing, and you should discuss those before you go cross country, so when you land in that field. Okay? So that's Stanton there. So what about navigation? What are some of the hazards with that? Do you go chart to ground, or do you go ground to chart?
Ground to chart.
What are you asking?
You may not be where you think you are.
I'm on this leg going from Stanton down to Dodge Center, and I'm looking for West Concord. How do I find West Concord?
You might miss it.
You might miss it. Okay? Do I look on the chart and go, well, West Concord should be just south of Skyberg there? Or do you look on the ground and say, oh, there's a little town, and just beyond it, there's another little town? Maybe it's these two. Do you go chart to ground or ground to chart?
Ground the chart.
Tastes great? Less filling? Okay, you kind of do a combination of both, right? And you're going cross country. Do you actually?
That big blue line up there at the, towards the top of your,
So what kind of airspace is that? It's not restricted. Controlled airspace. How high can I go when I'm on that, the Waseca back to home leg? 7,000. Is that something you should think about? What's that?
It's 6 at the corner.
It's 6 in the corner. There you go.
That's where you're gonna get caught.
Okay? So it's things like that you need to look at and think about, okay? And hopefully you've got some kind of mentor out there. Do you need ADSB out to go inside that 30-mile veil?
Not with the glider.
Not with a glider. Why not?
No electrical system.
Wrong. Why is it not with a glider?
No generators.
Wrong.
It wasn't certified that way, sir.
ADSB transponders were covered by 91-215, which says no certified electrical system. ADSB, which says you have to have it inside there, is covered by 91-225, which says that gliders are exempt from having them, regardless of whether they have an electrical system or not. Do you know of any glider today that's made without an electrical system?
Almost all of them.
All of them, yeah. Okay, but the regulation says you don't have to have it to go in there. Do I have to have it to go under the shelf of that Class Bravo? Nope. Okay, so yeah, so you need to understand the regulations. So that's one of the things your instructors can do, is put this little 130-kilometer challenge out there and start playing stump the dummy when it comes to FARs and what you got to have and all that. Okay, cool. Off-field landing, it's going to happen, right? Who here has done an off-field landing? Who here is going to do an off-field landing? Every one of you, okay? So face it, it's going to happen.
who here is gonna make sure they have crew available when they do it?
Not me. Okay? So it's gonna happen, okay? Are you ready for that land out? There was an F-14 in March that was flying from Oceana in Virginia to Miramar, California, down San Diego. It was 75 degrees and sunny in Miramar. You know how it is in San Diego. They went dressed as such, they went bombing across. They had a dual engine flame out over the Rockies. We had to punch out of the aircraft. Were they ready to land in the snow-covered mountains where they came down? Okay? So the same thing here, you need to have water, food, phone, survival gear, and as Vicki said, some kind of retrieve plan.
And shoes.
Shoes are good, yeah. Clothing is optional, but shoes are good. So, you know.
Make a note of that, Dick.
Cork's
Yeah.
gonna open the wine.
Well, yeah, you know, somebody asked me once when I go cross country, do I wear boxers or briefs? I said, depends.
It always depends.
Always depends. But be ready for it, because you don't know how long the retrieve is going to be. You know? 2 years ago at the seniors, we had a point that was 65 miles south, and yours truly landed just beyond the point, 65 miles south. It took almost 2 hours for the retrieve crew to get there, and by the time we were putting the glider in the trail, it was getting dark and it was getting cold. And I'm glad I had my little sweater vest in there with me. Okay, so be ready for all that. What about fatigue and dehydration?
It'll happen.
It's going to happen. Okay? You're working hard. Okay? How many decisions are you making a minute when you're out on a cross-country flight?
Several hundred.
Yeah, the generally accepted is 8 to 10 decisions every minute that you're making. Okay? You think about that an hour, that's 600 decisions. 3-hour flight, that's 2,000 decisions. That's a lot of brain power. Okay? That's a lot of energy you're burning up. And so as you get tired, as you get dehydrated, you start to not react as well. You know, next thing you start spitting up and they got to pull you out of the cockpit. Okay? All right? So what about low altitude thermaling?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Anyone else have an opinion?
Just say no.
Just say no. Okay? Establish that personal hard deck. Stick to it. Don't do it. What do you do if someone starts telling you about that low altitude save?
You tell them they were a dummy and they're lucky they're alive.
That's one way you can do it. You pull your water bottle out, you spray them, and you firmly say no. Okay? So that they don't do it. You make the story of the low altitude save socially unacceptable. I don't want to hear about what you did. You're endangering my sport by doing what you're doing. You're not a hero, you're a zero. Don't do it. Okay? Make it socially acceptable. If I were to light up a cigarette in this room, what would you do?
Spread water.
I might spray it with water. Okay? Same thing with the altitude saves. Don't take it. You know? Like Leon said with that, seeing that guy out there, you just don't realize how low they are. Okay? So we really, really, really want to get that away. That's why we're hoping for the racing people that they would lead instead of follow and say, hey, low altitude is bad. We don't want to do that. Okay?
But Tom, if I set my hard deck at 1,000 feet and I get a thermal at 900, I can make it home.
Well, that's a personal choice that you have to make. Okay? Getting back to what Nate, we're talking about checklist. What does a checklist do? As you pull the glider out of the trailer, now what checklist do you refer to? Assembly checklist.
Yeah.
You've assembled it. Now what checklist do you refer to?
Daily inspection.
Post-assembly checklist. Okay? Every time you enter a checklist, you enter a new phase of flight. If I throw the landing gear down, put the flaps down, do the landing checklist, should I really think about putting the landing gear back up and thermaling away?
No.
No, you've entered a new phase of flight. You've gone to that mindset, I'm landing. Once you've made that decision, there was that accident in Little Rock with the MD-88, where they said, we're going, okay, we're going to abort. No, we're not going to abort, we're going to go. Okay, we're going to abort. And where did the airplane end up? In the Arkansas River, okay? Because they made a decision and they went back and forth, okay? So we talked about the hard deck, that's your personal attitude, don't go below it, okay? Again, make that in the comfort of where you're at, with your cup of coffee, with your loved ones by you, making sober, sane decisions about what you're going to do, okay? Ken Sorensen has what he calls the 3-2-1 rule. If I'm at 3,000 feet or above, I'm cross-country flying, I'm doing it aggressively. If I'm below 3,000 feet, but above 2,000 feet, I'm cross-country flying, but I'm starting to look for a place to land. If I'm below 2,000 feet, I'm still cross-country flying, but I've got a place picked out to land. And then the one really doesn't fit it, but once I get down to my hard deck, I'm in the landing pattern, and I'm done. You're going to get a retrieve, you're going to get a tow home, whatever. Okay? But again, do this in the confines of your own home, nice and relaxed, go, do I want to follow this? And again, if you choose not to follow this, that's your call, but you need to have a reason why you're doing it. And just because I want to get more points on the task for the day, I don't think is a valid reason.
Tom,
Sir.
so you're getting pushback from the competition pilots, and I understand that. But was it John Cochran or somebody was talking about this, and the attitude is, if you've got a hard deck, I don't care if it's 1,500 feet. Everybody's got a 1,500 foot hard deck, and you adjust your flying so you don't get that.
Right.
And certainly you're going to set a hard deck at 200 feet. So what is the pushback? I mean, other than, oh, you're taking the fun away, let me kill myself. I mean,
what it is they don't want the safety geeks telling them how to fly their sailplanes on a cross-country race. I'm taking away your piloting command authority by saying that if you get down to 600 feet and go below it, as far as the scoring is concerned, you've landed.
I mean, they're still welcome to thermal if they want, but you've landed.
You've landed.
You've taken away the incentive.
You've taken away the incentive. So that's the pushback that we're getting, that I am trying to take away your piloting command authority. Which, you know, the racing finish that they talked about, we've gone to the cylinder finish. I don't know anything different. I still have a blast at these contests going on cross-country flights. You know, it doesn't have, I don't have to do a high-risk maneuver at the end of the flight to have fun. And again, when I'm out there, as much as I don't like landing out, I land out at least once at each contest. When it gets to that point, I go, oh crap, and I throw the gear down, and I go and land, and I call the retrieve desk. You know? It's just the way it is. So, and again, my glider I can use again, I can use myself again. There's no harm, no foul, off you go. Okay, that makes sense?
No, I was just wondering, because,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen this discussed in Soaring Magazine for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ron Ridenauer seemed to have a dramatic change of attitude, 5 years ago?
Mhm.
And he's like, no, it's like I mean, this is high, this is like 1,000 feet.
Oh yeah, Ron's dad almost killed himself doing that,
Yeah.
you know. And Ron's come around, you know, he's come over to our side, and you know, I've known Ron for 50 years, so. But yeah, that's what we're getting to, and the fact that it's coming from John Cochran, you know, he's the evil person that made the cylinder finish. So, you know, there's a lot of personal stuff going on there. And again, as one of the soaring pilots told me, he said, I'm a safety guy, I'm a nobody when it comes to cross country and racing. I shouldn't be telling the titans of the sport what to do.
Titans.
The titans, yes. So, again, you know, the statistics are what they are. Make them, okay?
So I really haven't had much exposure to cross-country soaring, but when you use the term deck, is that to mean the altitude below which you would not attempt thermally?
So, in military aviation, when you're out, you know, doing ACM, doing that, there's an altitude below that the people who are really smart about tactical aviation and training and all that have said, if you go below X altitude, you're not getting positive training anymore, it's negative training. The risk that you're associating with what you do is higher than what you're getting. So they say, when you go below the hard deck, you call knock it off hard deck, everybody resets, you start the fight over again. Okay? And the idea is that I get down to 600 feet, I get down to 700 feet AGL in my Ventus 2. I take my right hand, I push this in and I push it out, extend the gear, and I'm into the landing checklist and into the pattern.
So you would, for our terms, this would mean that the altitude below which you are committed to land.
You know, it's the altitude at which you make the decision that you're going to
That you're
land.
going to land, or, okay.
Yeah, and again, the physics is just not with you.
Right.
The glider weighs X number of pounds, it takes you X amount of time to react, it takes the glider X amount of feet to accelerate back to the speed. You know, the physics is just not with you. I don't care how good you are,
Right.
if you stall it at 400 feet, you're gonna hit the ground.
I was just gonna add that the club and the airfield have agreed on some areas where you will not thermal, no matter what you think you wanted to do.
Okay.
So, for the pilots that fly with the Minnesota Soaring Club, there are restrictions around the field.
Okay. Should you thermal at 300 feet over the end of the runway?
No,
No. How about over the center of the field?
no.
No, okay. You know, you can make, it's very easy to understand why you don't want to do those things, because you're interfering with the traffic pattern, you know.
But your hard deck cross-country might actually be lower than what the field restrictions are.
Yes. But it's a different environment,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And again, if my hard deck is 700 feet out on course and I come back to the field and the field says, we don't want you thermaling below 1,000 feet, which one should I honor? The 1,000-foot one at the field, okay? You know,
In your experience,
what's that?
in your experience, have most clubs made those rules?
Yes. That's one of the problems that we actually didn't understand, was people go, yeah, our club says don't thermal below 1,000 feet. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. You know, I mean, even a K-21 down to 800 feet, I don't have a problem with. But, you know, again, it's for the people who haven't soloed. If I, as a experienced pilot, thermal down at 800 feet in the K-21, what's that tell to them? That you can do it, that it's safe. That's what you do once you become an experienced pilot. You don't have to follow the rules. Okay, do we want that? No. Okay? Cool. Running out of gas here. We're on the last topic. Yay! Okay, collision avoidance. Okay? Yeah. Oh, yeah. People talk about, you know, unmanned airplanes. We don't have unmanned trains yet, and they can only go one way on, only two ways on a piece of steel. Okay? So, does the FAA give you guidance on how to find other aircraft out there?
Yep.
So, what is it?
See and avoid.
Visual.
Yeah, it's this advisory circular. The pilot's role in collision avoidance. You can see that it's October of 22. The previous one, Delta, was January or something of 19. The previous one to that was 1983. Okay?
Say that again. Say that once more. I was.
This advisory circular is dated October of 22. The one prior to that was January of 19, I think. And the one prior to that was sometime in 1983. The problem that the FAA is having is that the technology is far outpacing its ability to update these advisory circulars. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. Okay? So when you took your private pilot certificate check ride, were you responsible for looking outside?
Yes.
Yes. Okay? Was the examiner supposed to evaluate your use of visual scanning collision avoidance procedures? Yeah.
Of course.
So how do you scan visually and do collision avoidance procedures?
Well, isn't scanning visually a collision avoidance procedure?
Yes, but how do you do it?
Methodically?
Segments? Okay, what did the old advisory circular say with regards to segments?
Pause momentarily.
Okay, if there were no one in here, how would you find where the electrical outlets are? Would you move your head back and forth? What would you do?
Walk around the room.
I'd look over here, no electric outlet, I look over there, no electric outlet, I look over there. You have to stop and pause whatever segment you're looking in. And they used to say 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 5 to 10 seconds in each one. There's 18 segments at 10 degrees. How long does that take me to go from here to here? Long time. I'm going to hook the electrodes up to your fingers and we're going to see how long 3 minutes is. Okay? So what they have said, well, we'll get to this right now. I'll get back to it. Sorry. Okay. Scott Air Force Base, which is just outside St. Louis. If you take off on the southeast of St. Louis, you fly right over Scott Air Force Base. They did a thing of when do most mid-airs happen? They happen on pleasure flights in VFR conditions. Is that us?
Mm-hmm.
Sure is. Okay. The allow mid-air collisions occur in VFR conditions during daylight hours. Is that us?
Yeah.
So again, the statistics thing, what's that tell you?
Don't fly in daylight.
Don't fly in daylight in VFR, fly at night in IFR. Okay? The majority of the aircrafts result from a faster airplane taking over the slower one. Okay? What's the headline say? Glider runs into Southwest jet. No. Southwest jet ran into glider. Okay? No pilot is immune. Does your experience level matter?
No.
No. Okay? The vast majority occur at uncontrolled airports below 3,000 feet. So again, what's that tell you?
Not looking.
Get high and go to a controlled airport, right? Okay? And then route below 8,000 feet. And flight instructors were on board a little over a third of the time. Okay? What are flight instructors actively doing when they're in an aircraft?
Nothing.
Crossword, okay, yeah. In pen, I hope? Okay, no, you don't do it in pen, okay. So, but they're instructed. So when you're instructing, are you looking for other traffic? Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that's what they found. Okay? And there are limitations on your eye. Okay? I'm 64 years old. Do I see as well as I did when I was 17 and able to hit a curveball? No. You know? So that's going out there. Haze, does it ever get hazy around here in the summer?
Yeah.
No, okay, good. Glare, low profile target. When a glider's coming straight at you, how big is the cross section?
It gets bigger every second.
It gets bigger every second? Okay? Low profile target. Can you see things when you're fatigued?
Not as well.
If you're task saturated, can you see things better? No. Okay? And constant bearing, decreasing range. What's that mean?
Collision.
Okay, so what does it mean?
If it doesn't appear to move in the sky relative to you, then it's coming at you.
Okay, you're gonna hit each other, right?
Yep.
Okay? Went to safety school in the Navy, read this thing about these two ships. 18 hours prior, they realized they were gonna be on a collision course. What happened to them?
They hit each
Well,
other.
hit it.
They hit each other. Okay? It doesn't take much of a course deviation from either one of you to avoid each other. Okay? So yeah, so CB, constant bearing, decreasing range, you're going to hit each other. Will you notice that aircraft in your field of vision?
Right before you hit you.
Right before it hits you, yeah. But will you notice it when they're way out there?
It's difficult. You have to intentionally be thinking, I'm looking for things that aren't moving.
Yes.
As well as things that are moving.
Yes. So yeah, and they're going to come off on you real fast. The advisor circular says, and this is a Navy study from World War II, it takes 12.5 seconds from the time you recognize that a target is on a collision course until you can actually physically do something to get the airplane or the aircraft off of that collision course. 12.5 seconds is a long time. How far is that Southwest jet gone? About a mile. Okay? And if you're approaching it, how far have you gone in that 12 seconds? About a quarter mile. So you're talking 7,000 feet before you hit each other. Okay? So that's part of that's some of the things you're dealing with. Okay? You know what Dunning-Kruger effect is?
Yep.
What is it?
It's sort of Don Rumsfeld. You don't know what you don't know, or you think you know.
You don't know until you know something.
Right.
Okay? Same thing with traffic. If you don't know the traffic is out there, are you going to be looking for it? I've flown the whole flight. There's no traffic out there. Why do I need to keep looking for traffic?
Because you don't know that it's.
Because you don't know it's there, okay? You get that cognitive bias that your FLARM is clear. What if the other aircraft doesn't have FLARM? Is that going to help? No? Will the other pilots see me? Maybe. Yeah, you never know.
Usually not.
Usually not. Yeah, are they just as dumb as you are? Well, they're probably smarter than me, but you know, they're in the same thing there, okay?
So FLARM is an acronym for what now? Excuse my,
Flight alarm. Yeah.
because I always think TCAS when.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a second here, okay? So, assume that it's out there, okay? You must believe that the traffic is out there in order to look for it. She clicks her heels together, and what did she say? I believe. I believe. Okay, you gotta believe the traffic is out there, you have to actively look for it. Okay? So visual scanning, above all else, collision avoidance is see and avoid. Roy.
I'm just gonna mention about FLARM and ADSB here. So we're inside the Mode C veil, and a lot of power pilots are still under the impression that every airplane inside has ADSB. And if they don't see it on their iPad, it's not there. And so we put ADSB in our planes, but not every plane has them.
Okay.
And to me, that's still a big risk.
Oh, it is. You got the airline pilot behind you. If it's not on the TCAS, does it exist? He smiles. He's not answering. Okay? I'll take that as an affirmative. Okay? Yeah, that's a big problem. Is that, again, the children of the magenta line have learned that if it's not on the iPad showing up as a traffic, it's not out there. Okay? Do you guys all have transponders in your gliders here?
The Club 6 do.
Okay? Highly recommended. Highly, highly recommended. Okay? So this is the new visual scanning. You scan way out, come in, way out, come in, way out, come in, way out. That's the new technique that they want you to know. Okay? And that keeps you moving back and forth relatively quickly. And you can see they reduced it down to 8 segments that you're looking at as opposed to 18. Okay? So, and it works. You know, where do your eyes focus when you're looking out into an empty sky?
The farthest point.
Okay.
4 feet out.
4 feet out.
6 feet out.
6 feet out, yeah.
Well, it goes to, it focuses at infinity, but where are you actually looking? Like you said, 6 feet out. You have to actively look out. You know, if I just kind of open my eyes, I see her head, but if I really want to look at that tin structure over there, I have to physically look out there. Okay, so you have to understand your eyes have limitations. Okay? So are there electronic aids that you can use for collision avoidance? What? Oh, yeah. You gotta be looking out, yeah. Okay.
You use the left seat, Tom?
No, this guy named Bob Hatcher. This is from UPS. They're actually out over the Pacific. I believe someone photoshopped it. Like Abraham Lincoln said, you can't believe everything you see on the internet. Okay? So you got TCAS there, and that's got its limitations, and you got FLARM. What is the big thing that you, as a pilot, have to know about these things that you have in your aircraft?
They're not as reliable as you hope.
Are they foolproof?
No.
No. If they were foolproof, what would we do?
Invent a bigger pool.
Exactly. Okay? So yeah, you have to understand the limitations, you have to understand how to use it, you have to understand what meaningful knowledge it's actually telling you. Okay? TCAS, the airliners have that? What's this telling the pilot of this transport category aircraft to do?
Climb,
Climb. Put the VSI, the vertical speed, into the green arc. Okay? Do they care what's out there? No. They've got a resolution advisory, which is this red thing here. And the traffic advisory is like, yeah, something there. If you things don't change, you might have to do something. But they are required, if they get a resolution advisory, to do what the box tells them to do. Okay? They're required. So if you show up, you can see that red box is 300 feet low. Who knows what they were doing, but it's telling them to climb up. Okay? So FLARM, what does it tell you? Does it see, what does this symbol here mean?
Glider, I think.
It's a glider. It's 0.2 miles away, it's 100 meters above you. Okay? Why they do, oh, it's kilometers and meters, excuse me. Okay, so it's pretty close. So it's there, it's telling you it's got a helicopter out there. It's telling you information. What you do with that information is up to you. Okay? And if it gets really close, it changes to this. What is that telling you?
Duck.
What's that?
More attention.
Yeah, duck, you know, because it's coming real close. It says it's 40 meters away and all that. So you have to understand what modes the instrument may go into. So
how's it gonna, I mean, I forgive my naivete, and I don't wanna hold up the class, but I'm not familiar with the system. How does it know the difference between glider and helicopter? Does this be like transponder code or?
You see this FLARM ID on the bottom there?
Yeah.
It's PFM, it just knows. Okay? So, you know, it just knows and it pops up. Okay? And, yeah, it just knows. So what can FLARM see?
Other aircraft with FLARM.
It can see other FLARM. Can it see transponders?
Yes.
What kind of representation will you get on the FLARM ID on your display?
It's a dash circle, I believe.
A dash circle, it tells you distance, but not
direction.
Not bearing, yes. Okay? And that's for mode A, C, and S. Okay? Doesn't give anything. What if they have a ADS-B out there? Is the ADS-B that is in my Mooney different than the ADS-B that was in my 757?
Depends on how much you paid.
We're Americans. We don't do what all them Europeans do we? We do things right. Okay? So notice that the Europeans are on 1090. We're on 978. Okay? Will the FLARM see 1090? Yes. Will it see 978?
For a price.
For a price, yes. Okay? So you have to know what you're dealing with. Okay? You have to understand what the technology is telling you. Okay? You've seen these things, canopy flashers?
Yes.
What about them?
I saw them at the seniors and the 20 meters this
Okay.
year.
So talk to me. What do they tell you?
Head on, coming at each other head on, if you see.
Yeah. $600, easy to install. I've installed two. If the FLARM thinks that you're on some kind of collision course, it starts flashing. How far can you see it away? Long way away.
Yeah,
okay?
very bright.
Highly, highly, highly recommend that you put some kind of transponder and this anti-collision light in there. It is worth its weight in gold.
Do those anti-collision lights hook into, if you just had ADS-B instead of FLARM, can you also make it?
I don't know.
Okay, so these are designed for FLARM.
They're designed for FLARM.
Where's Paul Remedy when we need?
He could talk about all this stuff.
And Tom, I believe those are now going to be required at least in some.
They're going to be required in national contests, yes.
In nationals.
Yeah.
Tom, people got that picture. Is that mounted exterior on the?
It's mounted on the
canopy, or
inside of the canopy.
On the inside of the canopy.
Yep. And you don't see it because it sits flush up against the canopy. You don't see it. All you see, if it activates, there's a little green light, and the little green light will start flashing yellow at you. So that's all you see. But you see these things. I saw it first at the contest in Waller last year, and I was like, oh, these things are kind of dumb. And then I saw a glider was in a thermal with pointed at me, and I went, wow, these things are amazing. I mean, it takes all the guesswork out of it.
Are they wired or gravity powered?
They are powered from whatever power source you have in the glider. Okay. And there's a little box, and Paul can tell you all that, but if it's in your farm or whatever, well worth it. Okay?
To
So-
illustrate that, I recall being on a direct collision course with another airplane. Could see that was going directly past us, but I knew it was 1,000 feet below us. clear sky, good visibility, watched it happen on the instrument, never did see the airplane.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so what it told me is how many airplanes could be out there that I don't see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, in the Navy, we used to play, you know, out over the Mediterranean, we used to play big sky, little airplane all the time, you know?
And was that during CADU conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. So the FAA, you can see this is Newark here. They started doing a study. The business jets said, we're going to be safe. We're going to put TCAS in our business jets. Yay! All the business jets started going, we're getting all these traffic advisories and resolution advisories. What the heck is going on? The FAA goes, I don't know. Because it validates the theory that when you're in a high traffic area, you're going to get lots of TAs and RAs. And they said, well, we got the traffic going into Teterboro. That's fine. We got the traffic going up the Hudson to LaGuardia. That's fine. We got the traffic going into Newark. That's fine. Do you see a problem here? You got all these big pieces of metal flying around and real close to each other, and it's setting all these alarms off. Because the FAA thought that they had very rigorous traffic separation procedures, very rigorous protocols, professional pilots, they thought this isn't a problem. And it opened up their eyes and go, holy cow, we have a problem. We're lucky that we haven't run somebody into each other at this point. Okay? And that's one of the things they're dealing with. And then you put all the general aviation traffic going up the Hudson 500 feet and below, and you get a real problem.
Was that before or after GPS?
Oh, it's all after GPS, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I mean, I'm understanding with radars that you're not gonna get, I can't think of what the accuracy is, I know it all depends on the altitude, but I think it's, you know, the reason why they have the spacing is because radar is not down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but with GPS.
That's part of it, but, you know, when you come out of Newark, what do? You're taking off on the 4s. What do you do when you get to 2 miles? You turn right. Okay, what do you do when you get to 3,000 feet? You turn left back to the west. Okay, professional pilots. Are you going to be that far off of the 2 miles or the 3,000 feet when you do it? No. Okay, so they had very rigorous procedures and they were still getting these things to come up. So, what does all that mean? You remember Willie Sutton? What did he say? Why did he rob banks?
That's where the money is.
That's where the money is, okay? You're a prudent pilot. That's where I think the traffic is going to be. You look for where you think it's going to be, okay? Am I going to expect traffic, you know, wherever, if I know that there's a high concentration of traffic here? Yeah, maybe, but you're going to spend more of your time looking where you think it's going to be. Okay, so how do you use it effectively? Someone said, you know, the TCAS have actually been in these cockpits. Glider, what glider? I don't see any glider. What's the 4-letter, 5-letter word for boredom? So, begins with an E, ennui. Okay, so you got to look out. And when you get that TCAS advice, when they tell you traffic 2 o'clock, where do you look? You look down to the TCAS. Okay? Been there, done that, got the t-shirts. Okay, so you gotta know what you're dealing with here. So how do you use it effectively? Okay? You get the warning, you see what's out there. If I'm out here and I'm, you know, 2 kilometers from that glider, where should I be looking?
At the glider.
Hopefully out the glider. Should I look at 11 o'clock? Do you know how to use a analog watch? I say 11 o'clock. I'm pointing at you. It's okay. Oh my God, he wants me to talk. Where's 11 o'clock? I'm not picking on it. Where's 11 o'clock?
So,
How far off? How many degrees?
12.
30 degrees, right? 12 sectors, 360. 12 divided by. Okay. So, but yeah, have an idea when they say 11 o'clock. And is that based upon your track or your heading? Track. Yep. So if you're in a big wind, who knows where it may be. But understand how you look out there, okay? A couple weeks ago, they had a really, really good webinar about collision avoidance devices. It's an hour and 45-minute long. It goes into it in excruciating detail about what you can see. You can find it on the SSA website under webinars. It's really good, really well worth it. So I was down at the seniors when they had this on. It was good. Okay? So when are you going to encounter high glider traffic? Contest, yeah, where else? What's that?
Thermals.
Thermals, okay? So you come bombing into a thermal, what do you do?
Leave.
You look to see where the other traffic is going, which direction.
Okay, so I see a glider 2,000 feet above me turning to the left. Which way should I turn?
Left.
Left. Okay, but I really like to turn to the right. He's way up there. Is that okay?
No.
No. That's good. Okay, so yeah, so look what's out there. Look what they're doing. Is it easy to get target fixation out there? I see that one glider there.
Yeah.
Yes.
What should I be looking for?
Other gliders.
The other gliders to see that fiberglass tachyon of where the thermal is, and they're all coming toward it at high speed. Okay? Okay, you gotta look around for other gliders. There might be two. Okay, make sure you look around in all directions and in the thermal. Could you look up?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna pull up into the thermal, right? You're gonna slow down, so look all around. We're all going for the same thing. We all wanna get in that nice thermal and climb on up. Okay? So what about you enter the thermal? Always assume there's another glider out there. Agree with that, I hope? When you start to pull back on the stick and you encounter good air, make sure there's nobody above you. Really simple. Clear your turns. How do you clear a turn?
Look first, look before you move.
Okay, do I look 30 degrees, 60, 90? Where do I look? Okay, do I look up? Do I look down?
Yes.
Okay, is Carl Streeter going to come bombing into a thermal beneath me and pull up right through my altitude?
Yes.
Very well. Yeah, okay, so you really got to be vigilant about what you do. Start your turn, look at what's there. Glancing at your 1 o'clock does not count as a clearing turn. Okay? Has anyone ever been surprised when they've started to turn and saw another glider or another aircraft out there? Yeah, it happens. Okay? So once you're established in the thermal, what do you do?
Keep looking.
Keep looking. Okay? This goofball up here and that glider up there, they're not thermaling it very good. I'm going to turn inside them.
Bad choice.
Bad choice. Why is that a bad choice? They're still on my way to climb down.
Can't see.
What's that?
They could descend into you.
They couldn't descend into you. What else?
You can't see them anymore.
You can't see them at some points. Yeah. Okay. So just because you saw them doesn't mean they saw you. You can usually become a victim of someone there in the thermal below you. Okay. So how do you leave the thermal?
On a tangent.
Okay. How did you enter the thermal?
On the tangent.
On the tangent. You don't come around. My course line is out there, so I get over here and then I turn and dive through the good part of the thermal. You don't do that?
Not if you're polite.
This is a race, man.
Yeah.
Okay?
When you report, Mr. Streeting.
Okay? If you really, again, run all the numbers, does it make that much difference if you come around and exit tangentially or if you do through the middle? Doesn't make a hill of difference. Okay? So exit it safely, okay? What else should you look for?
Other gliders.
Other gliders. They're coming into the same thermal as you are, and they may be leaving, okay? Gently slide out of the thermal, letting the nose down, accelerate away from it, okay? Be considerate. You never know who's going to be out there. Okay?
Tom, go back, that last line, that's important for people who might not see it.
I have gone around another circle because I couldn't safely roll out. What does that mean?
There's some hazard, some observed hazard, possibly another glider.
I'm coming around, I'm going to exit here, and Mark is there, and he's kind of gone wings level, and if I go wings level to come on out, I may run into him. What should I do?
Go around.
Go around again. How long is it going to take me to do that 360?
20 seconds, 25 seconds.
20, 25 seconds, yeah. Is that going to make a difference?
It very much could.
Very much good, yes. According to Dave Moffat, yes. Okay? But yeah, 25 seconds of being assured I'm not going to hit somebody as opposed to...
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you for reading the slides. I appreciate that. So look outside. Do you ever see the person that you hit? No, that's why you hit them.
I saw the deer I hit last week.
What's that?
I saw the deer I hit last one.
Okay.
I saw his head by headlight, and then that's the last thing he remembered.
Okay, so there was actually a deer in the headlight. Okay. So, always assume the other glider out there, farm is an aid. Okay, always assume that. We had a mid-air a couple months ago down in Houston. 2 gliders airborne. What'd they do? They hit each other. They were both in the same thermal. One exited. The other one said, oh, the glider's gone. I don't have to look at it anymore. The glider came back in. They ran into each other. Okay, they both got back alive. One glider was not gonna be used again, and the other one's gonna be in the old country for 8 months getting repaired. So it happens, okay? So it's out there. Okay, what's the term belly up mean? Can I see the glider that is over here?
Showing somebody else in the thermal your belly.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a no-no.
That's a big no-no, yes, okay? What about that scenario where, see this glider, and I want to turn inside them because they're not doing any good. What am I doing?
Showing them your belly.
You're showing my belly, you know? Showing them it all, okay? And getting around there, it's not good, because where are they gonna be looking for me?
Well, they, in that configuration, they may not even know you're there. And one, if you show them your belly, you can't see them anymore, and you probably just scared the hell out of them. Because
Yes.
they probably didn't know you were there.
Yes, they're gonna wanna talk to you when you get back to the field.
So are you, is that essentially indicating then that you wanna stay more or less at the same altitude, or at least in an attitude where obviously where you can see them and they can see you, or?
I wanna keep sight of all the gliders that I see, and if I get to a point where I'm across the circle and I can tighten my circle up a little bit and get a little better lift for a little bit, I'll do that, but as soon as I start to get into a situation where I'm gonna go belly up or where I'm gonna become a conflict, I go back to what they're doing and get back in line in the circle with them.
So I mean, if you're belly up, essentially what that means is that you're above them, right? I mean, they can see your belly?
No.
You're inside them.
You're
on a
inside.
turn.
Oh, you're, so, okay, this is referring to your bank angle.
Right,
Yes.
you're like that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was referring to.
Okay, yep. Okay, cool, so you don't wanna do that. Are there collision problems in the pattern?
Yep.
Sure there, where are they?
We've had instances where you talked about the aircraft, the faster aircraft overcoming the glider.
Okay.
Overtaking the glider. We've,
Okay, so how fast do you normally fly your patterns around here?
55.
Okay, so if I enter the pattern over where it says high key area, how long does it take for me to fly around the pattern and touch down?
2 minutes.
Couple of minutes.
Okay, couple 5, couple 7, couple 1, what?
3 to
4.
I'm doing 60 knots, it's about 1.5 miles around, so how long is it gonna take me?
Mile a minute, 3.
Yeah, 90 seconds, minute and a half, okay, it's 60 knots. Again, that's one of those pieces of information to have in your arsenal that you can say, okay, this is why I'm doing it, this is what's going on. What if I fly that same pattern at 75 knots? How long is it gonna take me to get around the pattern?
A little less,
How much less?
15%.
About that, it's gonna take 1 minute and 12 seconds, okay? If I'm flying 75 and the other person's flying 60 and I run up on them, what's that tell me about how I entered the pattern?
Fast.
I entered it fast, but what else? I was too close. You know, this came up at a contest. Somebody said, and I said, you know, anyway, ran the numbers and said, you know, if you're that close, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Okay, so where are you going to encounter other traffic that might be a threat to you?
well, the case I usually see from the ground, for whatever that's helpful, is I usually catch it on the downwind leg.
Okay.
But I'm standing on the ground, so.
Okay, so Marilyn, what kind of pattern do you fly?
It's always perfect.
Always perfect. Okay. Is it a tight pattern, a normal pattern, or a loose pattern?
We fly tight patterns around
Okay.
here.
And I come here and I don't know y'all, and I don't think it's safe to fly a tight pattern. I fly a loose pattern. What's that going to set up?
Yeah, well, you gotta, when you're in the pattern, you've gotta look out.
To the right.
Because most power traffic from somewhere else is flying a much bigger pattern.
Mhm.
And they may be outside you, and they may be above or below, because we're usually losing altitude as we come in.
Okay.
And then there's still the guy that wants to do the straight in final.
Okay. Should you do a straight in final at a VFR airport like this on a VFR day?
Yeah, some people will do it.
Yep. Yep. Some people will do lots of stuff.
And you
Okay.
should- and
But
you
yeah,
should
when you're here on
realize-
base leg, like she says, power traffic, people flying the big bomber glider pattern, you're gonna go belly up to them, right? Are you gonna see them? Where is your focus and concentration at that point?
Yeah.
On your reference point.
Yeah.
Okay, are you looking for traffic? Get in the habit, Ron Reinauer beat the daylights out of me, with a stick of knowledge that when you start that base turn, you should look out the other way where people might be coming. Okay?
And we
Alright.
occasionally have somebody that doesn't know the field pattern, doesn't fly a left pattern, they wanna fly a right pattern, cause that's what they're used to.
You mean so they're not used to Advisory Circular 690-66B?
That's the one, yeah.
Can you switch back to that previous, one just for a moment?
So the FAA gives guidance on the pattern. This is what you should do unless the facilities directory says otherwise. That's what you should expect. Okay? They say the glider should either be inside the power traffic or they should be on the other side going the other way. So what is the particular collision hazard with this scenario here?
Belly up to the other traffic.
Like we talked about. What about this scenario down here? What's the collision hazard?
Collision on base.
Yeah, Blue Angel opposing Solo, right? You're both coming at each other. Where's the glider pilot looking?
And for his aiming point.
And where's the other pilot looking? Are they looking for each other? Nope. Okay, so that's some of the hazards you need to think about. Again, you rob the bank and that's where the money is. You look in those spots that you know that there might be a possible conflict. Train yourself to do that. Get in the habit of doing it. Do you guys know what scenario-based training is?
Yeah,
What is it?
somebody gives you a story and says, what do you do now?
Okay. So when can you practice that?
On the ground, when you're thinking about drinking a beer?
Okay. Party with you, that's good. Can you run these scenarios when you're sitting in traffic on the 35?
No,
No?
no, distracted driving.
Well, you're sitting in traffic, you're not moving. Okay? Can you do it when you're sitting in a traffic light? Again, if you go through and say, okay, I'm on base leg in a right-hand pattern, and I see traffic on a left-hand pattern on the other side, can you think of things that you would do? Sure you can. And when you actually get in that situation, are you going to be more likely to do the right thing or less likely to do the right thing if you've thought it through before? More likely, yeah. Do I actually have to go flying to practice this?
No.
No. Can I practice it in that nice simulator you got upstairs? Sure. Can I do thought experiments? Okay. You think about it, where, again, you flip through that Rolodex that you don't have, and you go, oh yeah, this is what I do, and you look at it. You've already thought about it, you already have a plan. And you're more likely to have a successful outcome if you have a plan than if you haven't thought about it.
And the other thing is like to practice what you're gonna say on the radio when you're making a right-hand pattern and the rest of the traffic's making a left-hand pattern.
Okay.
Be ready to announce what you're doing.
Okay, so what would you say?
Oh, you want me? I haven't practiced it. No, I'd say stand ground, glider 3 Juliet, making a right-hand pattern for runway 36. Be advised.
Who you are, where you are, what you're gonna do. Is there anything else that you need to say on the radio?
What airport?
Okay, that's where you are. Stanton
Right.
traffic, barn burner 1, 2, 3, right-hand pattern, runways 9, Stanton.
Altitude.
Well, you're in the right-hand pattern. They assume you're gonna be there. Okay.
Say that's how people assume.
Well, they
Well-
usually, people, I can tell you what I usually hear on the ground. I hear somebody saying, entering the 45, I hear them saying, I'm downwind. I hear them, if everything's under control and they're calm, they often say, turning base.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they repeat the whole thing, stand traffic,
Yeah.
glider, whatever, right-hand pattern, turning base.
Yeah.
But the thing that surprised me when I came to the field in the first place was that we do have aircraft that fly here that have no radio. In addition to the aircraft whose radio are broken. But we have some that there is no communication, they don't have this capability.
Okay. So that gets back to standardization. That you're coming here, you don't see anything in the facilities directory that says right-hand pattern, so you're gonna fly a left-hand pattern. Okay, you're gonna fly nice and tight like Maryland does, and you're gonna look out for traffic. Okay? Again, aviate, navigate, the last thing is communicate. If I am flying a tight pattern where I'm supposed to be, do I really need to make a radio call?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I do it as time and conditions allow. Okay? If I am too busy beating down all the snakes in the cockpit, should I beat the snakes down or should I make a radio call?
Beat the snakes down.
Okay, beat the snakes down, yeah.
Even most students manage to be on the 45.
Okay.
So,
Is that something you have to practice, that radio call?
yes.
You're sitting at the traffic light, can you practice it? Sure you can. Get it to where it just rolls off your tongue. Okay? And then, that way you can sound really cool, like you're one of those professional airline pilots.
There are some people who do it really well.
Yes. All right, we are almost done here. Do you have to brief your passengers?
Yes.
Yes.
Who says so?
FAA.
Yes, the FAA, right there. Wow, you guys saw this. What do you have to brief them on?
Seatbelt.
Safety belts.
Seatbelt usage, yeah, what else?
Canopy.
Airbeds.
Any CAP people in here?
Yeah.
Okay. This came out of the CAP glider 60-70-1 or 60-1.
Would have been 70 something.
70.
70-1.
Where's the fire extinguisher in your glider?
It's on the pull cart back down there.
It's on the pull card, yeah. Okay. I agree with their sentiment to putting this in there, but what I don't agree with, I read through this and I get to that and I completely discount it because somebody just copied and pasted this. They really didn't apply it to the situation that they're doing. So I would highly recommend you go through, apply it to the situation that you're actually doing. And what about your passengers? What's that say?
Traffic and sterile cockpit.
Okay, what's sterile cockpit?
Quiet on takeoff and landing.
Quiet?
It doesn't say it's quiet, it says
Oh.
air, traffic related or flying related.
Right.
We don't talk about,
You mean unnecessary communications?
we don't talk about the football games or
That too.
pets.
Okay.
I think it's aviation related.
Okay, so you don't talk about how the line personnel were somebody that you thought would be really, whatever, or about, okay? Yeah,
And I
What
would
would-
like to-
what's
And I
that?
would like to make sure you tell your passengers where the barf bag is.
okay.
That should have been done pre-flight.
You mean action in case of any passenger discomfort?
I guess that's
Okay, well, the whole point of this is that when you take someone for a ride, you need to tell them, hey, you're responsible for looking out for traffic just like I am. Okay, and I also want you, when I'm doing a checklist, what should they do?
Be looking.
Have a big hot steaming cup of STFU, right? Okay, shut up, don't say anything, I'm doing a checklist, okay? That's what sterile cockpit is, no unnecessary communications, okay? He can tell you that, you're taxiing along, okay, taxiway Charlie's coming up, we're gonna take a left, yes, I concur, we're gonna take a left on taxiway Charlie. Is that necessary communication? Yeah. Did you see how bad Michigan beat up on Minnesota last night? Is that necessary communication? No, okay? I went to Michigan, by the way, okay? So, but this is what you have there, and you're supposed to brief this every time. When you get on that Southwest jet, listen to what they say. It follows that pretty closely. Okay? That's the 91.519 part, we're really under the 107 part. Okay? So any questions, comments? You survived! Yay! Anything, anybody? Here's your last chance.
What do you think the biggest likely problem is? I mean, what's the one that keeps you up at night?
The one that keeps you up, and you know what I mean, glider-wise?
Yeah, glider-wise,
Per-
or glider operations-wise.
Personally, for me, it's when I'm at a contest running into somebody I don't see or somebody who doesn't see me. Dick can tell you he's the one who kept me alive, but 3 years ago I had a pretty bad accident at the seniors, and,
So are there, around here, if I'm on the ground listening to the radio and there are people stacked in a thermal over near Cannon Falls, I hear them talking to each other.
Okay.
Where are you? Is that less likely to happen in a contest?
It depends on where the situation is. It depends on who you're dealing with, but if you're out there, you know, and you're in a thermal and you pull up and you don't see somebody, somebody's gonna say, hey, Victor Zulu, I'm up here, you know, or something to that effect. You know, but, you know, it's all part of, self-preservation. So, okay, sir.
I was just thinking back to the kiting of the glider, pulling the tow plane down. They ever considered, I just wrote a note, having an auto release on the tow plane based on tow rope angle. So there's some type of mechanical measurement that there would just be an automatic release. If that starts kiting on them, it's faster than the response period of the pilot.
I think that people have really not thought it that far deep into it. I know that a lot of clubs are switching over to toast hooks on the tow plane end because they're not subjected to the Schweitzer hooks, where if you've got the 1,200 pounds of force pulling that thing up, it'd be very hard to release. So, I don't
Say that
think
again, what's the difference?
The Schweitzer hook on the back of your tow plane has the part that comes where you hook it in, comes up. So if you start to kite, now you've got the rope pulling on the Schweitzer hook and it's jamming it into the mechanism that keeps it in place.
We had a broken hook up on the tow plane last year, it now has a tow plane.
Okay, so where is your tow release on the tow plane?
Down to the left by the flaps.
Okay.
It's
Is it
hard
easy
to
to
it's
reach?
hard to feel. No, it's
Oh.
hard to feel.
Okay, what we did, is what Tampa Bay Soaring did. We have on our Pawnee, you've got the throttle, you push it forward, and if you put your fingers up like this, you can grab the tow release right there, and all you gotta do is do that, and the rope's gonna come off. It is really nice.
Board, can we do that? Can that be a project for the Pawnee, please?
You need approval from Pawnee to
Your
do
friend-
that. You need to get a special.
Do you have approval to have the tow hook on your Pawnee? I know the answer to that, and the answer is no. Is it anything that affects the original form, fit, or function of any control on the aircraft?
I have no idea.
No, wouldn't be an STC for that?
Does it alter the form, fit, or function of any component on the aircraft?
No.
No, so you don't need it. Okay, and it was pretty simple. You had that rump thing that comes up, and it comes up on a line, and the fella just bent a little 3-prong thing, and when you push it forward, it's a big red handle, and like I say, you have the throttle all the way forward, and all you gotta do is reach your hand forward about that far. Your fingers can grab it, and pop, off you go.
Can you pass along that information to our club board, whoever, maybe Chris, maybe how that's built, designed, whatever, that would be.
Sounds like you need to lead the charge, Jackson.
I'll have the fellow who built it get a hold of you if you really like.
That would be super helpful, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And it takes all the worry out because, I mean, trying to find the release when it's down on the floor.
It is on the floor and it's next to the flap handle. You can't. I've thought of that many times. If I would have enough time or wherewithal to pull that versus the flap handle,
Yeah.
which would make things worse if I pulled the flaps.
And you go back to that scenario, from the time the kiting started till it was out of control, it was 4 seconds.
Yeah, I don't have 4 seconds.
Yeah, but in 4 seconds, I can go, oh crap, boom,
Yeah.
I can do that. So, okay, does that answer your question, sir? Okay, anything else? Okay, back over to you, Chris. Thank you.